I was clearly a living soul, yet I managed to rack up 999 glorious achievements down in the underworld. Just as I was about to be conferred the title of fourth brother, I was kicked into the river by Yama himself. However, the moment I touched solid ground, I was stunned, for a horrifying apocalypse had descended upon the world. The mortal realm is now crawling with ghosts, and those who form pacts with them have become ghost tamers. Standing before me right now are a man and a woman. The middle-aged man observes the dense ghost energy radiating from my body and tells the girl that, given the intensity of this aura, I am likely far beyond the hazardous rank. He urges her to use Taoist methods to deal with me immediately. Upon hearing this, the young woman hurriedly produces a stack of golden talismans. She circles around me, traps me within a rope, and then draws a peachwood sword, lunging straight at me. I curse silently, wondering why I've encountered lunatics the moment I return to the mortal realm, while simultaneously tearing away the talismans wrapped around me. Seeing this, the young girl is frozen in shock. A ghost this fierce is completely unaffected by her talismans. Refusing to accept this, she produces a purple talisman and slams it directly onto my forehead. I frown, peel the talisman off, crumple it into a ball, toss it aside, and roar at her. Are you insane? With that, I snatch the peachwood sword from her grasp and snap it in two. The girl is seized by absolute panic. It seems all her techniques are useless against this malevolent spirit. Without a second thought, she turns and flees, screaming, "Uncle Lee, run, this ghost is far too powerful." I am even more incensed upon hearing this. She is the ghost, her entire family are ghosts, what rotten luck. I had only just arrived and already crossed paths with two madmen. At the same time, not far away, a figure with disheveled hair is hovering in midair. She mumbles to herself, noting how thick the ghost energy is. If she devours the opponent, she will certainly grow stronger. As she speaks, she speeds toward me. Suddenly, she halts in her tracks and immediately turns to flee. How can this be? How could a big shot of such status appear in the mortal realm? Could the barrier between the living and the dead have completely vanished? It turns out that 7 years ago, a crack appeared in the barrier between the two realms. In a single night, countless malevolent spirits descended upon the mortal realm, and this female ghost was one of them. One must understand that the stronger the entity, the lower the probability of successfully crossing into the mortal realm. She cannot fathom how an existence of my level, from the depths of the underworld, could possibly appear here. Just then, my shout echoes from behind her, "You there, stand your ground." As those words fell, a terrifying pressure instantly enveloped the female ghost. The female ghost turned around at once to plead, "Lord Mo Lin, please spare my life." I asked with great curiosity, "How is it that you recognize me?" It turned out this ghost originated from the Underworld city and had encountered me 7 years ago when I still served as a Yin Messenger. From her lips, I learned that the human realm had long since become a world where humans and ghosts coexisted. Seeking to accumulate Yin energy, some ghosts formed pacts with humans, while others seized territory to cultivate in solitude. Once I had assessed the situation, I told the female ghost, "Do not fear, I have no intention of harming you." Upon hearing this, the female ghost expressed her hurried gratitude and prepared to depart immediately. However, just as she turned away, I suddenly struck the top of her head with my palm and uttered the word, "Suppress." And just like that, the female ghost vanished without a trace. Ding! Congratulations, you have obtained the Ghost Eye trajectory. The ghost tome that had appeared in my mind 7 years ago finally turned to its first page. Shenshi, danger level fierce. Skill, Ghost Eye. Yield 20 nether coins per day. Note, the higher the cultivation realm, the greater the yield of nether coins. My eyes lit up upon reading this. Nether coins are condensed from vast amounts of yin energy. Regardless of whether one is a ghost or a yin messenger, they can be used to advance one's cultivation realm. Yin messengers in particular require massive quantities of nether coins for official advancement, making them an essential resource for cultivation. Now, by capturing just one fierce level ghost, I could generate 20 nether coins a day. If I captured 10 fierce level ghosts, I could produce 200 coins daily, totaling over 60,000 in a single year. One must realize that back when I served as a Yin Messenger in the Underworld, my annual salary did not even reach 100 nether coins. What was even more absurd was that I had also acquired the trajectory of this ghost. For the first time, I truly felt the formidable power of the ghost tome. At that same moment, Shenshi appeared in a desolate place surrounded on all four sides by walls, where she could be seen darting about aimlessly while screaming, "Let me out! Let me out!" Wait, why is the yin energy here so dense? It is even more concentrated than the yin energy in the underworld. One must understand that when Shenji was in the human realm, accumulating even a small amount of yin energy required an immense expenditure of effort and time. Yet here, with a single breath, she received more yin energy than she could accumulate in an entire month outside. This place was truly a paradise for a malevolent ghost. However, before she could even revel in her joy, in the blink of an eye, she reappeared before me. I looked at Shenji, who wore a face of sheer terror, and asked, "So, you wanted me to let you out?" Shenji shook her head frantically. "To be harbored by you is my great fortune." Not foolish at all. To have a place with such dense yin energy to reside in, only a fool would choose to leave. I nodded and asked, "What is the function of the Ghost Eye?" The Ghost Eye is my trajectory. Once activated, it allows me to discern the ranks and trajectories possessed by other ghosts. I rubbed my chin in deep thought. This Ghost Eye trajectory might be useless to others, but for me, it is like a tiger gaining wings. Because the space within the Ghost Tome itself is limited, it is impossible to collect every ghost I encounter. Therefore, I can rely entirely on the ghost eye to seek out truly powerful entities. Shenji instantly grasped my intentions and hastily began to flatter me, saying, Lord Molin, I know of a terror-class ghost. With your strength, you could certainly subdue it. Shall I lead the way? Under Shenxi's guidance, I quickly arrived before a village. Just as I prepared to enter, an old man called out to me, Young man, have you also come because of that thing inside? That is a disaster-class ghost. It would be best if you turned back lest you lose your life. Just as I was about to say that I feared nothing, 2 Mercedes-Benz vehicles happened to drive by. After the doors opened, a beautiful woman and 5 young men in their 20s stepped out. Old man Yun, this is the company I have brought for you. Do you find them sufficient? The old man surveyed the 5 ghost tamers, nodded, and said 3 rank 3 ghost tamers and 2 rank 2 ghost tamers. This is sufficient. Upon hearing this, the young woman smiled and said, Old man Yun, I am counting on your expertise today. Please, I implore you to help me capture the disaster-class ghost within. It turned out that in order to successfully capture this ghost, the young woman had spent over 3 million to hire these 5 ghost tamers, and had also presented Old Man Yun with 2 pieces of ghost artifacts to secure his assistance. She was willing to pay such a steep price because once she captured the disaster-class ghost and successfully forged a contract with it, she would ascend to the rank of a Tier 3 ghost tamer, thereby cementing her standing within her clan. Contemplating this, she waved her hand and ordered the road to be cordoned off, then turned and followed Old Man Yun into the village. Meanwhile, the bodyguards she brought with her hurriedly set up barriers to block the path, forbidding anyone from entering the village. Seeing this, I attempted to ask the guards if I might pass, yet these guards, they regarded my presence as if I did not exist. I was in no hurry, standing not far from the village to observe. Though I could not tell if it was an ill omen or merely my imagination, the sky grew increasingly dark. At that very moment, the cries of that young woman suddenly erupted from within the village. She was currently besieged by a shroud of black mist, rendering her completely paralyzed. Her only recourse was to scream for salvation. Just as she plummeted into despair, I descended from the heavens and roared, Begone! The black mist surrounding the woman abruptly halted. Upon seeing me, the young woman frantically pleaded for her life. Save me and pull me out of here. I will reward you with a vast fortune. My eyes lit up at the prospect, for I was indeed in dire need of funds. I reached out to pull her to safety, then carried her back toward the village entrance. Once I set her down, I instructed her to wait while I ventured inside to investigate. The young woman hurried to stop me. Do not go. The entity within is formidable, a terror-class spirit. You will surely lose your life. Ignoring her warnings, I strode directly into the heart of the village, where I soon discovered the corpses of the 5 spirit tamers. At that moment, a blood-stained hand suddenly clamped down onto my shoulder. I turned to find Elder Yun standing behind me, his face smeared with gore. Little brother, I will give you 3,000 Underworld coins. Take me away from here at once. Even as he spoke, he kept glancing around nervously. He seemed perpetually terrified that the demon would suddenly manifest. I disregarded Elder Yun and lunged toward the black mist looming ahead, immediately thrusting my palm into its depths before pulling back with a violent force. A shadowy figure was yanked from the mist, and the details of this spirit materialized before my eyes. Name Shixing, rank Terror Class, path Soul Refinement. Utilizing Soul Refinement allows one to bind an enemy, neutralize their attacks, and deliver a finishing blow. Observing the information floating before me, I silently praised the ghost eye. It was truly exceptional. A single glance was all it took to fully discern the secrets of this malevolent spirit. Shixing bared his teeth in a futile attempt to resist, but his limbs remained utterly immobilized. Little did he know that I had just employed the Yin Envoy's specialized spirit-binding art to lock away every ounce of his strength. Elder Yun watched the scene in complete astonishment. Is this young man truly this powerful? To capture a malevolent spirit with such casual ease, it seems I have grossly underestimated him. I began to interrogate Shixing, asking whether he belonged to the Naihei Bridge or the Ghost Realm, but the creature remained silent. In truth, the Underworld is currently divided into 3 great factions. One faction is the Night Capital, led by the Yama King. Another is the Naihei Bridge, commanded by the judges and Meng Po. Finally, there is the Ghost Domain, ruled by the Ghost King. Shenxi and I belong to the Night Capital. The ghosts of the Night Capital are relatively temperate and rarely take human lives. The ghosts of the Naihei Bridge are deeply divided. Some harm humans, while others do not. As for the Ghost Domain, most of them revel in hunting humans. They are steeped in heavy karma and possess ferocious, violent natures. Shixing did not answer my question directly, choosing instead to roar with insults, so I ceased my efforts to converse. With no need for useless words, I seized Shixing and hurled him violently toward the ground. A thunderous crash echoed as the earth shattered into a large crater, and Shixing's silhouette seemed to dim considerably. Witnessing this, I grabbed him once more and continued to slam him against the ground repeatedly. Only when he was on the verge of dissipating did Shixing beg for mercy, crying, "Spare me, Great One. I am a ghost from the Ghost Domain." Upon hearing this, I delivered another strike. I have always despised ghosts from the Ghost Domain. Following this, I bombarded Shixing with a series of questions. How many Yin Messengers and Yin Envoys does the Ghost Domain have in the human realm, and what is the strength of their most powerful ghost? But Shixing merely shook his head, signaling his ignorance, so I abandoned the interrogation and placed my hand upon his forehead. Instantly, Shixing vanished from where he stood. Ding, congratulations, you have acquired the soul refining path. The second page of the True Ghost Manual updated to include Shi Xing's information. He can generate 40 Underworld coins per day. It appears that the higher the rank of the ghost captured, the greater the daily yield of currency. If I can accumulate enough, I will eventually ascend to the status of a domain lord. Seeing the evil spirit subdued, Elder Yun felt the burden in his heart finally lift. He looked at his severed arm and sighed in helplessness. He had suffered a grave loss on this journey, having not only lost 3 pieces of ghost artifact but his own arm as well. He hurriedly thanked me, stammering, "Young brother, I am deeply indebted to you for saving my life." As he spoke, Elder Yun produced 3,000 Underworld coins and offered them to me. I accepted the currency and was just about to turn away when a crack resonated and harsh pale spotlights converged from all directions. Shortly after, several pickup trucks screeched to a halt. As the vehicles settled, a group of individuals clad in black trench coats stepped out. One woman among them spoke up, saying, "We are members of the Ghost Suppression Society. May we ask where the target ghost is located?" Seeing this, Elder Yun realized that the reinforcements had finally arrived. He spoke in haste, "The evil spirit has already been repelled." No sooner had these words fallen than Xian Yun, the woman I had previously rescued, stepped forward. She spoke to Elder Yun with a tone of profound remorse. "Elder Yun, I apologize for the fact that you lost an arm because of me." Elder Yun replied helplessly, "Xian Yun, this is not your fault. Blame only my own arrogance for failing to investigate properly and accurately gauging the rank of this malevolent spirit." Xian Yun turned her gaze toward me and asked, "Benefactor, are you unharmed? Did that demon not inflict any injuries upon you?" I shook my head, signaling that I was perfectly fine. Xian Yun immediately made arrangements for a car to transport me to a luxurious hotel for my stay. At the break of dawn the following day, the woman from the Spirit Suppression Bureau, who had been present the night before, knocked on my door. "Greetings, my name is Li Bingyan. I am the Deputy Chief of the Yunchuan City Spirit Suppression Bureau." Having been briefed by Xian Yun the previous evening, I was already acquainted with the nature of the Spirit Suppression Bureau. It was a national institution possessing a presence in virtually every region. Before I could inquire about the intent of her visit, Li Bingyan spoke first. "I wish to invite you to join the Spirit Suppression Bureau. Ordinarily, we would not impose any restrictions upon your autonomy. You would be free to pursue your own affairs as you see fit. We would only request your intervention when we encounter crises beyond our own ability to resolve. Furthermore, we would provide compensation commensurate with your contributions." I heard her out, remaining unmoved, and gestured for her to continue. Thus, Li Bingyan added, "Our Spirit Suppression Bureau maintains the most formidable intelligence network in existence. Should you need to locate individuals or spirits, we can provide you with the necessary intelligence. Should you fall into distress, we are also capable of offering support from our own forces." Hearing this, I did not issue an immediate refusal. Having only recently returned to the mortal realm, I was still uncertain of the current state of affairs here. Therefore, I replied that I would carefully consider whether or not to join. Upon hearing this, Li Bingyan did not show signs of disappointment and departed with professional courtesy. Once they had exited the hotel, the man accompanying Li Bingyan complained with clear dissatisfaction, "Sister Li, he is merely a spirit controller. Was it truly necessary for you to be so deferential in begging him to join us?" Li Bingyan replied with a grave and serious tone. "He succeeded in capturing a terror rank spirit." The man reflexively retorted, "Did Elder Yun not say that he merely drove the terror rank spirit away? Could it be that Elder Yun was lying?" The man then realized that if Mo Lin could indeed capture a terror rank spirit, it meant he had certainly formed a contract with one. If he truly captured that terror level specter yesterday, does that not mean he now possesses 2 entities of such terrifying caliber? At this realization, the man drew a sharp breath, instantly understanding why Sister Li's attitude had been so sensitive. Meanwhile, on the other side, I was lounging on the sofa, sipping a soft drink, snacking on food and watching television, fully savoring the feeling of having regained what was once lost. Once I had eaten and drunk to my fill, I retrieved the golden scroll that the King of Hell had bestowed upon me. Upon unfurling it, I discovered a message left by the King of Hell. "The Ghost Cave and the Naihei Bridge have already established their own formidable forces in the mortal realm, yet our Majesty City currently possesses no foundation in the world of the living. You must exercise extreme caution during this journey to the mortal realm. Zishang Qingru is currently being hunted by the Ghost Cave. If the opportunity arises, you must assist her in her escape." I rubbed my chin in contemplation. It seemed the 2 great factions were thriving in the mortal realm, while only our Majesty City was faring poorly. Zishang Qingru, mentioned in the scroll, is my senior. Long before I became a Soul Reaper, she provided me with significant guidance and support. Furthermore, she was the most powerful among all the Soul Reapers, which is why the King of Hell spent a vast fortune of underworld currency to send her to the mortal realm to develop our influence. By my reckoning, it has been 3 years since then, yet it seems my senior has failed to build any significant power base, and has even been driven into a corner by the specters of the Ghost Cave. My thoughts immediately turned to the Spirit Controller Society that Li Bingyan had spoken of. With their extensive intelligence network, finding my senior should prove feasible. Besides, it is always easier to survive when standing in the shadow of a great tree. By any calculation, joining them would not be a loss. With that, I took out my phone to contact Li Bingyan, expressing my willingness to join the Spirit Controller Society. I had not expected her and Xianyun to arrive so promptly. Li Bingyan brought me a specialized device and an identification card. After a few exchange of pleasantries, she took her leave. Only then did Xian Yun, who remained by my side, reveal her true intentions. Brother Mo, would you be willing to help me capture a ghost? I will not let you labor in vain. I offer you a piece of ghostly artifact. With those words, Xian Yun produced a small bell. A mere glance told me that while it was a decent artifact, it held no utility for someone of my caliber. Seeing my silence, Xian Yun added, I can offer you an additional 10 million in cash, a residence, and a Rolls-Royce. Her desperation was palpable. She yearned to capture a formidable ghost. Her younger siblings have both already become spirit controllers. If she fails to attain that status, her influence within the family will surely continue to wane. I pondered for a moment before stating that if she could help me locate a Yin envoy of the night capital named Zishang Qingru, I would agree to assist her in capturing a demon. No sooner had I finished speaking than Xian Yun replied with visible agitation, claiming she indeed knew of such a Yin envoy, though she was uncertain if it was the same one I sought. I was struck with surprise. I had not expected such a casual inquiry to bear fruit so quickly. Without hesitation, I pressed her for the location of the Yin envoy she spoke of. Xian Yun suddenly recalled something, her expression darkening as she revealed that the Yin envoy was currently being held for auction. In the next instant, she could not help but recoil 2 steps as a terrifying pressure radiated from my body. I asked with chilling indifference where the auction was being held. Trembling, Xian Yun hurriedly stammered, It is being held at the Jinshatong auction house. I quickly gathered from Xian Yun that this Jinshatong was previously nothing more than a dilapidated Taoist temple, one that had long failed to achieve any significant results. But 7 years ago, when the horrific apocalypse descended and demons began to run rampant, humanity was reduced to the lowest form of existence. Yet by relying on talismans peach wood swords, Jinsatong managed to capture a considerable number of demons. Thus, over the past 7 years, Jinsatong has gradually grown into a fairly reputable establishment. Once Xian Yun finished her explanation, she cast a glance at me, then spoke with caution, noting that Jinsatang was currently guarded not only by 2 level 4 demon tamers, but also by 5 level 3 demon tamers. She warned that venturing there as I was would be extremely perilous. Upon hearing this, I dismissed her concerns, instructing her to simply lead the way and leave the rest to me. Once the matter was concluded, I would fulfill my promise to help her capture a demon. Seeing that she could not dissuade me, Xian Yun had no choice but to nod in agreement. However, just as we reached the hotel lobby, we were intercepted by a bald man. Sister Xian Yun, where might you be heading? Xian Yun furrowed her brow and shouted, Move aside, I have important matters to attend to. The bald man sneered with disdain, Important matters, you say? Are you referring to the death of 5 demon tamers last night? Or perhaps the fact that you squandered the few precious demonic artifacts belonging to our family? Or perhaps, as the head of the family, you have managed to burn through nearly 10,000 Underworld credits in less than a month. The old master is furious. He intends to strip you of your position and place you under house arrest for half a year. Xian Yun's complexion turned ghastly. It appeared she had been targeted by members of her own kin. Before Xian Yun could offer a retort, the bald man gestured with his hand, and 2 burly men stepped forward, intending to seize her. Seeing this, my patience wore thin and I bellowed, Get lost! The bald man surveyed me from head to toe and said with utter contempt, You think yourself a big shot just because you're wearing cheap clothes? I suggest you stop meddling in affairs that do not concern you, or I will stop wasting my breath. I lunged forward with a kick, sending the bald man flying, before walking out of the hotel with Xian Yun without so much as a backward glance. Meanwhile, the auction at Jinsitong had already reached its final stages. Everything meant to be sold had been auctioned off, yet the Yin Messenger had yet to be produced. Consequently, the crowd began to express their growing dissatisfaction. At that very moment, a middle-aged man walked out with a grin, carrying a wooden cage. Do not be impatient. Has the Yin Messenger not been brought before you now? All eyes were drawn to the wooden cage, which was covered by a black cloth inscribed with dense crimson characters. The middle-aged man slowly lifted one corner of the fabric, revealing a small, shadowy figure, and declared, This is the Yin Messenger. If anyone among you possesses the ability to forge a contract with it, you could at least become a Tier 5 spirit controller, or perhaps even a Tier 6 spirit controller. Upon hearing this, the crowd became eager to try their luck. However, when the middle-aged man announced a starting price of 20,000 Underworld credits, the rowdy crowd fell instantly silent. For a long while, no one dared to bid. Suddenly, a young man spoke up and asked, Cannot the price be lowered a little? The middle-aged man shook his head. Impossible. The name is 20,000 Underworld credits. This Yin Messenger was placed here on consignment by another. We at the Tan Ancestral Hall have no authority to alter the price. The middle-aged man scanned the room once more and asked, Is there anyone who wishes to bid? Just when everyone assumed no one would make a purchase, a young man dressed in expensive branded clothing raised his hand and shouted, I will buy it. The middle-aged man immediately beamed and said, Young Master Wang Bin is truly generous. Wang Bin smiled and asked, May I inspect the goods? The middle-aged man nodded, certainly. He then handed over the wooden cage. Wang Bin took the cage and lifted the black cloth to observe it closely. It was indeed a Yin Messenger, though it had been beaten so severely that its soul was on the verge of dissipation. Yet that mattered little to him. He merely intended for his contract ghost to consume this Yin Messenger, thereby evolving it into a ferocious grade entity. At that point, he would also become a Tier 3 spirit controller. On the other side, we hurried and finally arrived at the Tan Ancestral Hall. Xianyun stepped out of the vehicle and urged, "Brother Mo, let us be quick. If we arrive late, the Yin Messenger might already be purchased by someone else." However, as I stepped out, I paused and turned my gaze toward a young man carrying a wooden cage, because I could sense the aura of the Yin Messenger emanating from it. At that moment, Wang Bin noticed my stare and I pointed to the cage in his hand and asked, "Is that a Yin envoy inside?" Upon hearing this, Wang Bin hastily retreated a step. It was clear that this man was not someone to be trifled with. He then claimed that he had spent 20,000 Underworld coins to acquire this Yin envoy. "If you want it, provide me with 20,000 Underworld coins, and I shall sell it to you." I fell into deep thought. I did not even have 4,000 Underworld coins to my name. Thus, I could only ask helplessly if he would accept something else in exchange. Wang Bin refused without a second thought. He had guessed I could not produce the 20,000 coins, which is exactly why he made such a demand. Then, the middle-aged man beside him shouted for me to clear the way. Shenyun quickly warned me that this person was a bodyguard of the Wang family named Yangshu, a third-rank ghost controller. Before her words had even faded, a sudden sound echoed. A muffled explosion rang out. A plume of black smoke billowed out from my crimson official robes. Seeing this, Yangshu's expression shifted violently. He had just launched a ghost attribute strike at me, yet it had not left so much as a scratch upon my person. They were unaware that my attire was a yin-attributed artifact, against which even a terror-level ghost would struggle to leave a mark. I raised my hand and whispered soul refinement. As the words left my lips, a chain of searing flames shot directly toward Yangshu. Before he could even attempt to dodge, the chain had bound his throat, rendering his body completely immobile. Seeing this, Wang Bin hurriedly said, "Brother, let us not be rash. The matter of the Yin envoy can be negotiated." I heard him and withdrew the soul refinement. Yangshu collapsed directly to the ground. Since when had such a ruthless individual appeared in Yunchuan? I turned to look at Wang Bin and said, "I do not wish to take your property for free. Give me the Yin envoy and I will offer you something of equal value." Wang Bin knew well that he was no match for me. He could only speak honestly, admitting that he had bought the Yin envoy to upgrade his contracted ghost to the perilous level. "You are unable to help a ghost evolve," he added. Wang Bin gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, forget it. I will gift the Yin envoy to you. Let us consider this a gesture of friendship." Before he could finish, I cut him off, stating that I was indeed capable of helping him upgrade his contracted ghost to the perilous level. Upon hearing this, Wang Bin's face filled with disbelief. "Brother, there is no need to deceive me. I am already willing to gift you this Yin envoy." I did not bother with further idle talk and told Wang Bin to follow me to a dimly lit room not far away. I then commanded Wang Bin to step outside. Wang Bin looked left and right, perplexed. It appeared that he was the only one present. Who then was being summoned to emerge? I watched Wang Bin as he peered around, saying, "Do not move. I am not calling you. I am calling the entity residing within your body." Wang Bin looked at me as if I were a fool, retorting, "Brother, please regain your senses. You cannot summon my contract ghost." However, the very next second, a dark shadow drifted out from within Wang Bin's body. Wang Bin was utterly bewildered. Had I truly managed to summon it? The contract ghost could be seen trembling, pleading for mercy. "Great master, spare my life. This lowly one dared to offend you unintentionally. My soul is weak, and my senses were sluggish. That is why I was delayed in coming forth to meet you." I asked directly, "Are you a ghost from the ghost realm?" The contract ghost shivered as it replied, "This lowly one was once a ghost of the underworld, but was later captured by the great demons of the ghost realm and brought there." I looked at the spirit, which was on the verge of dissipation, and asked, "Then what is the meaning of these wounds of yours?" The contract ghost said helplessly, "Great master, in those years when you were in the ghost realm, you utilized the 5 Viscera ghost concealment technique to summon a ghost king, slaughtering everything in your path. I was merely observing from a distance, yet I was struck by the collateral damage. I nearly had my soul scattered entirely." Wang Bin stood to the side, his ears ringing. He was a living man, so how could he have descended into the underworld? Furthermore, that 5 Viscera ghost concealment technique sounded chilling to the bone. The words of this contract ghost left me feeling quite embarrassed. The 5 Viscera ghost concealment technique of a ghost controller requires the practitioner to reach a certain level of cultivation before it can be forcibly employed. In order to save my own life, I had to pay a heavy price. Moreover, ever since that incident, the entire ghost realm has known that I am the successor of the Celestial Master. I sighed and said, "I shall heal your wounds now." Immediately after, I took 10 notes of underworld currency, each with a denomination of 100 from my ghost tome, and placed my hand atop the head of the contract ghost. In the next instant, the underworld currency transformed into spiritual energy, pouring into the contract ghost body. The contract ghost's physical form began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. Once the contract ghost had fully recovered, it apologized to me repeatedly. I simply waved my hand, signaling for it to return to Wang Bin's body. The moment the contract ghost returned to Wang Bin felt the surge of power from the contract ghost, now at the hazardous level, which meant that from this moment on, he was a Tier 3 ghost controller. Overjoyed, he said, "Brother Mo, the underworld envoy belongs to you." With that, Wang Bin led me toward Yangshu to retrieve the underworld envoy. However, no sooner had we stepped out the door than Yangshu drove straight past us. Wang Bin and I were both stunned. Why had he fled? A flicker of irritation rose within me. I had just helped Wang Bin upgrade his contract ghost to the hazardous level, and yet Yangshu had already vanished with the underworld envoy. Is this not a blatant deception? Wang Bin hurriedly explained in a panic. Brother Mo, this man took the Yin emissary away on his own accord. I certainly did not order him to do so. Having said that, he hastily pulled out his phone to call Yang Shu. Damn it, why are you running? On the other end of the line, Yang Shu gritted his teeth and said, Young master, just hold your ground. I will return to find the master to save you. Wang Bin cursed aloud. Are you a fool? Bring the items back to me immediately. Seeing this, Yang Shu became even more convinced that Wang Bin was being coerced. Thus he spoke up again. Young master, I know you are being threatened by that brat. Wait for me to bring the master back to rescue you, and together we will deal with that man. Upon hearing this, Wang Bin was so furious he could see stars. He immediately roared, What are you imagining? I am not being threatened. I am doing this of my own volition. Bring the Yin emissary back here at once. Perhaps because Wang Bin was acting too desperate, Yang Shu had no intention of returning at all. Wang Bin looked at me with a guilty conscience, then back at his phone. I realized at this moment that this was a misunderstanding, and one that could not be resolved in an instant. Therefore I said, I have no choice but to go to your residence to retrieve the Yin emissary myself. Wang Bin nodded in agreement, eager to comply. And Brother Mo, please accompany me to my home now. I shook my head and replied, Wait until I resolve another matter. Immediately afterward I turned and walked toward the Jinchi Hall, coldly demanding to know who had captured the Yin emissary. Instantly, everyone's eyes turned toward me, and whispers began to ripple through the crowd. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and asked, Young brother, what is the meaning of this? I asked, Who captured the Yin emissary? The middle-aged man retorted, What business is that of yours? It seems you have come to our Jinchi Hall to cause trouble. Following his words, several men appeared behind him. Xianyun saw this and whispered to me, Brother Mo, these men are all Tier 3 ghost tamers. I calmly explained, I am not here to cause trouble. I am merely inquiring about the Yin emissary. The middle-aged man let out a cold snort, and immediately, however, he suddenly discovered that the demon contract within his body had seemingly vanished. No matter how he attempted to summon it, he received no response. The grade 3 demon tamers behind him found themselves in the exact same predicament. Seeing that they still refused to open their mouths, I spoke, If you refuse to divulge the truth regarding the Underworld envoy, I shall be forced to resort to other methods. The demon tamers of the Jinchi Hall were unfazed, continuing their desperate attempts to reconnect with the contracts within them. Observing this, I lowered my head and let out a low guttural roar. A mysterious viscous fluid began to trickle from my mouth. At the same time, my chest heaved rhythmically, as if something were struggling to emerge from within. Just then, an elderly man clad in Taoist robes appeared and bowed to me with cupped hands, saying, Exalted One, please withdraw your divine technique. I am the Taoist master of this temple. Whatever matter you have, you may discuss it with me. Hearing this, I took a deep breath and swallowed back the entity I had intended to summon. Since the person in charge had finally stepped forward, there was no longer a need to utilize the 5 Viscera hidden ghost technique. However, the others were deeply displeased to see the Taoist master treating me with such courtesy. Master, this man caused a scene at the auction. You should expel him immediately. The Taoist master responded with a cold reprimand. All of you, hold your tongues. A bunch of blind fools. He then turned to me and said, Exalted One, pray forgive the disturbance. Please do not hold a grudge against these ignorant juniors. Let us head inside to discuss matters. With that, he led me inside, while no one noticed Wang Bin staring wide-eyed at the pool of saliva I had left behind. Must I truly go and collect that saliva? This is utterly disgusting. Seeing him hesitate, the demon contract within his body erupted in a frenzy. Hurry and retrieve it, you fool. That is not mere saliva. It is a manifestation of demonic energy so dense it is liquefied. For a ghost, it is an invaluable tonic. Feeling the frantic compulsion from his contracted demon, Wang Bin grit his teeth and used a tissue to pick up the puddle from the floor. As he looked up, he caught Xianyun beside him, staring at him with an expression of shock and repulsion. Meanwhile, on the other side, I went straight to the point. I only wish to know who captured the Underworld envoy. Upon hearing this, the Taoist master spoke directly to the middle-aged man, Than Van. Inform the Lord who captured this ghost. Observing the grim expression on the Taoist master's face, Than Van dared not refuse any longer and spoke in a hurried tone. We did not capture the ghost. It was sent here by someone else for consignment. We merely take a 10% commission. I pressed him, asking what the man's name was, which faction he belonged to, and where he came from. Than Van pondered for a moment before replying. He identified himself as Tunda, and it seems he is not a native of Van Juan. I have only met him once. Beyond that, we know nothing else. If you wish to find him, I can contact you when he returns to collect the Underworld currency. I nodded in agreement, left my phone number, and departed. After I left, a confused Than Van asked his grandfather why he had shown such courtesy to that young man, and why it was necessary to break the rules of our Tan Tu Duong for his sake. The Taoist master listened, then calmly asked, Do you know why you were unable to summon your contracted ghosts earlier? Everyone shook their heads, indicating their ignorance, because your contracted ghosts were gripped by terror. Everyone stared at the Taoist master in disbelief. How could a contracted ghost possibly fear a human? The Taoist master spoke with grave seriousness. He is a being we cannot afford to provoke. From now on, none of you are to cross him. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Vuong Ban drove Shen Yun and me to the front gates of his family villa. As soon as I stepped out of the vehicle, I noticed a tattooed man emerging from the Vuong estate. Behind him hovered a patch of crimson shadow within which countless remnants of souls were wailing in agony. This sight indicated that the tattooed man's contracted ghost had consumed the life essence of these souls while they were still alive to bolster its own strength. Seeing me observing the tattooed man, Wangban hurried to introduce him. This man is named Long Hoa, a rank 4 ghost master. At that same moment, Long Ho froze in his tracks. As if he were conversing with someone unseen, he quickly glanced in our direction, and then accelerated his pace, preparing to depart. I too sensed an incredibly familiar aura emanating from Long Hoa. With a flicker of movement, I intercepted his path. An old acquaintance. Why the rush to leave upon seeing me? Long Ho replied with clear impatience. Who is your acquaintance? I do not know you. Having said that, Long Ho attempted to turn and leave once more. I intercepted him once more and said, I am not speaking to you. I am speaking to the contracted ghost dwelling within your body. Zhang, you and I have clashed several times in the underworld. Do you still refuse to show yourself? Before Long Ho could even call out, a pitch-black shadow surged forth from within his body. Please show mercy, Great One. I beg you to spare my life. The crowd was utterly astounded. A 4th-tier contracted ghost reduced to such cowardice? Without a shred of pity, I reprimanded Zhang. You committed countless atrocities in the underworld, and now you continue your wicked ways in the world of the living. Do you not deserve to die? It turned out that this Zhang Gui belonged to the ghost domain. When I was still an underworld envoy, I had already crossed paths with him. Back then, I struck him down 3 times, severely crippling his cultivation. Yet, somehow I allowed him to escape into the world of the living. Never did I expect to encounter him here. Zhang Gui suppressed his inner rage and pleaded once more, Mo Yin Si. You and I have no grievances between us. I beg you to show mercy today. I scoffed with disdain. You slaughtered several of my friends in the underworld. Do you truly call that no grievances? As my voice trailed off, a chain materialized from the void, lashing out directly toward Zhang Gui. Zhang Gui attempted to evade it, but the chain clung to him like a phantom, binding him instantly. Knowing he could not escape his fate this day, Zhang Gui let out a desperate roar. Mo Lin, this is the world of the living. In the ghost domain, I am supreme. There is no place here for the likes of you from Yi Du. You will not meet a favorable end. Ignoring his threats, I placed my hand upon Zhang Gui's head to suppress him. Congratulations on obtaining the black mist trace. Wang Bin and the others standing by could not help but be shaken by the scene before them. This was a horror-tier ghost. Yet Mo Lin had managed to suppress it in less than a few minutes. This level of power is truly fearsome. Seeing his contracted ghost being seized, Long Huo lunged forward in a desperate attempt to reclaim it. That is my contracted ghost. I kicked him away and turned to Wang Bin, saying, send him to the Public Security Bureau. Upon hearing this, Wang Bin immediately ordered his men to bind Long Huo. Seeing that I had finished my task, Wang Bin's father hurriedly stepped forward to greet me. Wang Bin, stop standing there like a fool. Invite our guest inside. Wang Bin nodded repeatedly, then slapped Yang Shuk across the back of the neck, barking, you idiot, bring the Yin envoy over here at once. Thus, I soon caught sight of the wooden cage containing the Yin envoy. As I lifted the black cloth, I saw a small pitch-black figure hanging suspended in the center, its limbs pierced through by red threads. The moment I laid eyes on that small dark entity, I realized that this Yin envoy was not my senior sister. When I attempted to open the wooden cage, a burst of electrical crackling was immediately triggered. I was jolted by the current, forcing me to release my grip on the cage. Immediately afterward, a red thread shot straight toward me. I drew the long sword from my waist without hesitation, severed the red thread, and then swung my blade against the cage, shouting as it shattered into pieces. Following that, I placed my palm upon the ghost and channeled ghost energy into him. The ghost's body quickly recovered to its normal size. The moment he regained his form, he dropped to one knee. I, Li Quan, offer my respects to you, Great One. Thank you for saving my life. I asked, who was it that captured you? Seeing that he had found a protector, Li Quan immediately confessed that he had been trapped by a conspiracy between a powerful ghost from the ghost realm and a ghost controller. I fell into deep thought for a moment before asking, do you know the whereabouts of my senior sister, Zi Shangqingrao? The ghost hurriedly replied, Zi Shangqingrao. She's been missing for a year now. I previously dispatched other ghosts to search for her, but there has been no news whatsoever. Realizing I would extract no further useful information, I said, I understand. Find a place to heal your wounds. I will call upon you when you are needed. I then turned to Shan Yun and said, Shan Yun, could you lend me 10,000 nether coins? Shan Yun did not even hesitate, immediately agreeing, very well. I shall return home now and figure out a way to help you raise the funds. With those words, she turned and departed. I did not linger either, returning directly to the inn. As soon as I entered my room, I summoned Zhang Gui and questioned him regarding the ghost realm. Zhang Gui replied, trembling with fear, the ghost realm currently occupies 3 provinces, establishing a power base entirely their own, and furthermore, they have formed an alliance with the ghost controllers, primarily to deal with the Yin envoys arriving from the night capital. To date, they have already slain 32 night capital Yin envoys. I pondered for a moment, then asked how the ghost domain managed to pinpoint the location of the underworld emissary, Yadu. One must understand that the Longgu region is vast, and I could not fathom how the emissary was found so easily. Zhang Gui shook his head and replied, I do not know, my lord. My cultivation is shallow and the information I possess is limited to common knowledge. I felt a headache coming on. If the ghost domain intended to deal with the underworld emissary, it meant they would eventually come for me as well. After all, during my time in the underworld, I had eliminated quite a few of their ghosts. Just then, my phone rang. As soon as I answered, Li Bingyan's anxious voice came through. "Mo Lin, do you have a moment?" I replied, "Speak your mind. What is the matter?" Li Bingyan did not waste any time with pleasantries. She stated directly that a formidable ghost had appeared at 26 Hongai Street, and it had already claimed the lives of 3 Spirit Master controllers. "I would like to invite you to investigate. If you can resolve this, the reward will be 2,000 Ming credits." I accepted readily, as I was indeed in dire need of funds at the moment. After hanging up, I quickly changed my attire. The robes of the underworld officials were far too conspicuous. Other ghosts would recognize my identity on sight. Until I gathered more intelligence on the ghost domain, it was better to keep a low profile. Afterward, I gathered my equipment and took a cab to 26 Hangai Street. As soon as I stepped out of the vehicle, I noticed the road ahead had been cordoned off. "Sir, this area is temporarily blocked. Entry is not permitted." I produced the identification card Li Bingyan had given me previously to prove that I was a member of the Spirit Master Society, here to resolve the disturbance. The man gestured, "Very well, follow me." While leading the way, the man kindly warned me that 4 Spirit Masters had already met their end earlier. 3 are dead and 1 is heavily injured. You must be extremely careful. Soon, we arrived before an abandoned building where a crowd had gathered, whispering amongst themselves. The man reported to a young woman with a ponytail, "The person from the Spirit Master Society has arrived." Note, original VN text had a typo chi context. Tang Fang nodded but did not bother to acknowledge me. She was on the phone at the moment, seemingly asking someone how much longer they would be. I prepared to enter the abandoned building on my own, but after only a few steps, Tang Fang grabbed my arm and questioned me. "What do you think you are doing?" I asked, puzzled. "Is this not where we are meant to capture the ghost?" Without another word, Tang Fang pulled me back. "The ghost inside is ferocious. It has already slaughtered 3 Spirit Masters. By entering alone, are you not simply throwing your life away? Do not be impatient. I have invited a highly formidable spirit tamer to join us. We shall wait for his arrival before we proceed." Seeing this, I found it inconvenient to say anything further. 10 minutes later, the roar of an engine echoed in the distance. As I looked up, I saw a helicopter slowly descending onto an open clearing not far away. Moments later, a young woman stepped out, shielding herself with an umbrella. Tang Fang introduced her to me, stating that Yun Lin was the strongest among the rank 3 spirit tamers. "Do you see the umbrella in her hand? That is an artifact of the ghostly path. It holds a danger rank spirit trapped within." I watched as Yun Lin approached Sister Tang and asked, "What is the current situation?" Tang Fang furrowed her brows and replied, "The situation is dire. We have already lost 3 spirit tamers." Upon hearing this, Yun Lin tapped the black umbrella gently. In the next instant, a dark shadow emerged. The spirit then leaned close to Yun Lin's ear, whispering something in a hushed tone. Yun Lin nodded, greeted Tang Fang, and began walking toward the abandoned building. Seeing this, I hurriedly followed behind them. Yun Lin noticed I was a fresh face and asked, "You must be a newcomer, aren't you? Then you must stay close to me. When we encounter spirits later, I shall be able to protect you." Having said that, she turned and led the way into the derelict structure. However, we had not traveled far when a sharp cracking sound echoed, startling both Tang Feng and Yun Lin. I said, feeling somewhat embarrassed, I accidentally stepped on a stone. Internally, I was speechless. Their reaction seemed far too exaggerated. Just then, I suddenly sensed 2 surges of ghostly energy, powerful, the other weak. In other words, there were 2 spirits present here. One of them was relatively weak, and the path Yun Lin had chosen was leading us directly toward that weaker entity. The stronger spirit, however, was located in the opposite direction. Tang Feng noticed me glancing around and asked, "What is the matter? Did you see something?" I gestured toward the opposite direction and replied, "It is nothing. I am heading this way." Without waiting for their response, I turned and walked straight toward the opposite path. Tang Fang watched my retreating figure and said, dumbfounded, "The newcomer must have never experienced." Yun Lin remarked with understanding, "We have all risen from being mere novices. Back then, even I felt quite terrified during my very first mission to capture a spirit." Suddenly, the spirit beside Yun Lin sensed something and lunged straight forward. Seeing this, Yun Lin quickened his pace to follow closely behind. At that same moment, I had just ascended to the 2nd floor when an inexplicable chill surged directly toward me. As I lifted my head, I beheld a putrid, decaying face. The spirit swung its palm and a surge of black malice darted toward me. I raised my hand to intercept the strike of the dark energy, then unleashed a punch imbued with the soul-refining trajectory, instantly binding the spirit in place. I stroked my chin, observing the trapped spirit, and muttered, "So, a spirit of the malevolent grade, is it? I previously promised Xian Yun a malevolent grade spirit. This one is perfectly suited for her." With that, I placed my hand upon the malicious spirit and executed the spirit sealing technique. In the blink of an eye, the entity condensed into a solid black sphere. Terrified and pale, the sealed spirit shrieked, "You possess the arts of the underworld. You are an emissary of the Yin realm." It then began to plead for mercy. "Lord, please spare my life." I did not intend to take lives. Those spirit controllers were the ones who sought to capture me. I only killed them in self-defense. As I placed the black sphere into my storage bag, I replied, "Rest assured, I have no intention of harming you." Following this, I departed the abandoned building without delay. Meanwhile, on the other side, Yunlin had just dispersed a dangerous grade spirit, telling Tang Fang that there must be another malevolent grade spirit lurking in the vicinity. Otherwise, a single dangerous grade spirit could never have been responsible for the deaths of those 3 spirit controllers. However, despite searching the abandoned building for a long time, the pair found nothing and were ultimately forced to give up in frustration. At the same time, within the Shan household, a young man pointed at Shan Yun and roared, "You have already squandered over 10,000 nether coins. And now you have the audacity to demand another 10,000? Do you intend to drain this family dry?" Unwilling to yield, Shan Yun retorted, "I have made the acquaintance of a very formidable individual. He is willing to capture a malevolent grade spirit for me. All he requires is a loan of 10,000 nether coins." The young man scoffed at his cousin. "Are you dreaming? Do you have any idea how difficult it is to capture a malevolent grade spirit?" Shan Yun's grandaunt also chimed in to oppose her. "You must have been deceived. Even if one were caught, it is not so simple to form a contract with it." Watching her grandaunt, who had previously supported her, now turn against her, Shan Yun's heart sank. Just then, Shan Yun's grandfather suddenly spoke up, "Let Yuner have the 10,000 nether coins." As those words were uttered, Shan Yun's eldest uncle immediately spoke out in opposition to her father. Shan Yun had already ruined several pieces of ghostly artifacts in the past, and with only 10,000 underworld coins remaining in the family coffers, if they were all given to her, this household would truly be ruined. Shan Yun's cousin took the opportunity to chime in, claiming she had already squandered 2/3 of the family fortune. "In my opinion," he added, "not only should we refuse to give her more underworld coins, but we should also lock her away as a warning." Just then, a strange voice rang out. "Let me see who dares to imprison her." Amidst the stunned gazes of everyone present, I walked directly up to Xian Yun and asked if she had been arguing with them to help me reclaim those 10,000 underworld coins. Before Xian Yun could answer, her third aunt questioned me, "Are you the one who sought to borrow 10,000 underworld coins from Xian Yun?" I nodded and replied that I was. Upon hearing this, Xian Yun's cousin mocked her. "I think you are a complete fool. You truly expect to capture a dangerous level ghost by relying on this wet behind the ears brat?" Xian Yun's third uncle also chimed in. "Xian Yun, you have certainly been deceived by this boy." I said nothing, merely waving my hand. Immediately, a ghostly figure manifested. The elder of the Shin family widened his eyes in shock, recognizing that this was indeed a dangerous level ghost. At this moment, Shen Yun's third aunt voiced her skepticism once more. "Is this really a dangerous level ghost? It seems rather weak to me." Before she could even finish her sentence, her throat was gripped tightly by the malevolent spirit. I hurriedly commanded it to stop. The malevolent spirit immediately retreated to my side. Shan Yun's cousin stood by, trembling, and swallowed hard. "This ghost is far too ferocious." I turned back to Shan Yun and said, "This ghost is a gift for you. Form a contract with it." Both overjoyed and anxious, Shan Yun asked, "What price must I pay?" It is widely known that in the eyes of ghosts, humans are considered base creatures. Therefore, for a human to forge a contract with a ghost, they must fulfill whatever conditions the spirit demands. The more powerful the ghost, the higher the price, the specific nature of which depends entirely on the spirit's desires. However, I did not let the ghost speak, stating directly that no price was needed and that she should simply sign the contract. I then turned to the spirit and ordered it to produce the contract. The demon, upon hearing this, complied readily and produced a scroll of contract. I noticed that the contract bore only 4 words regarding the terms of the pact, with no other conditions listed. Xian Yun looked at me and then at the specter, clearly puzzled as to why this entity was so obedient, yet she did not hesitate to press her thumb onto the parchment to seal the agreement. In the following moment, the specter merged directly into Xian Yun's body. Seeing that the contract had been successfully bound, the elder of the Jian family declared that once he had passed on, the management of the household would be entrusted to Xian Yun. With that pronouncement, the elder departed from the main hall. Xian Yun then spoke up, "I intend to utilize 10,000 underworld coins. Does anyone have any objections?" No one dared to voice a protest, unanimously agreeing that as the new head of the family, her word was final. After the others had dispersed, Shen Yun brought the 10,000 underworld coins over and said, "Brother Mo, thank you. Here are the 10,000 underworld coins. As for the house and car I promised you, I will ensure they are prepared as soon as possible." I accepted the coins and told her there was no need for such formalities. Having promised to assist her in capturing the specter, I was never going to break my word. I also intended to return this sum to her in the near future. As for the house, try your best to find me a location with a dense concentration of yin energy. Xian Yun nodded, signaling that it would be no problem. I pondered to myself that I owed not only Xian Yun 10,000 underworld coins but also owed Wang Bin the same amount. Thus I asked her if she knew of any method to acquire underworld coins rapidly. Xian Yun pondered for a moment before replying, "There is no shortcut to earning underworld coins quickly, but if you possess a surplus of ghost essence to sell, you could potentially acquire a significant amount in a single transaction." It turned out that in the Yang realm, ghost essence was exceptionally precious. Even a low-grade item could easily sell for several thousand underworld coins. A higher quality artifact could fetch tens of thousands. This was because a ghost might spend its entire existence refining only a single weapon, and under normal circumstances, no ghost would ever part with its own. During my time in the Underworld, the Yama King personally taught me the method of refining ghost artifacts. Therefore, as long as I possessed sufficient nether coins, I could refine an abundance of these artifacts. With this thought in mind, I pressed further, asking where one might go to sell such items. She replied that the Four Directions Pavilion in the heart of Yunshuan City was the place. It served as the primary trading hub for ghost tamers to conduct their business. As long as the item was a genuine ghost artifact, there would be no shortage of buyers. Upon hearing this, I did not linger. I hurried back to the hotel. I began my preparations to refine the ghost artifacts. I held 10 100 denomination nether coin notes in my right hand. My left hand moved rhythmically, weaving intricate hand seals. Before long, the nether coins transformed into wisps of nether energy. They coalesced into a ghostly silhouette, gradually taking the shape of a small blade. As time passed, the phantom outline of the blade slowly solidified into a physical entity. I narrowed my eyes, inspecting the small blade in my palm. This dagger could be used at most 7 times. It was a low-grade ghost artifact. I estimated it would fetch only a few thousand nether coins. Even so, the profit margin was respectable. Throughout that entire night, I exhausted over 7,000 nether coins and successfully refined 3 more weapons. At daybreak, I drove the luxury vehicle provided by Xian Yun to the trading grounds at the Four Directions Pavilion. I strolled casually toward a vendor's stall. Picking up a bell-shaped ghost artifact to examine it, I remarked, "This low-grade ghost artifact can only be used a single time. It is somewhat worn and dilapidated." The proprietor roared immediately, "Boy, do you even know how to appraise goods? Although this artifact is single-use, it is of the highest quality." I asked, "Then how much are you asking for this item?" The proprietor looked at me as if I were a country bumpkin and sneered, 3,000 nether coins. I was momentarily stunned by the response. A piece of junk like this could actually sell for 3,000 nether coins? I decided to probe further, asking in that case how much would a ghost artifact with 6 uses be worth. The proprietor looked at me with open disdain, shouting, "Do you have no sense of value, brat? An artifact capable of 6 uses is already a treasure. Such rare items would never appear on the open market." It appeared that the value of a ghost artifact increased exponentially with the number of times it could be used. The most valuable ghost artifacts traded at the Four Directions Pavilion were, at most, limited to 3 uses. Through my conversation with the shopkeeper, I finally understood that the ghost weapon I refined, capable of being used 7 times, would undoubtedly fetch a respectable price. I retrieved a short sword and presented it to the shopkeeper, inquiring how much such a ghost weapon might be worth. The shopkeeper stared at the blade in my hand, visibly shaken. "This ghost weapon of yours, it can truly be used 7 times?" I went straight to the point and asked if he intended to purchase it. He replied, "Young brother, you hold me in too high regard. I do not possess the wealth to acquire such an item. How about this? I shall call out to the crowd for you, and there will surely be someone who wishes to buy it." Seeing me nod in agreement, the shopkeeper immediately raised his voice and shouted, "A brand new ghost weapon capable of 7 uses. Who is interested in purchasing?" Before 10 seconds had passed, I found myself surrounded by a dense crowd of onlookers. They clamored in confusion. "Can this ghost weapon truly be used 7 times? Are you not attempting to deceive us? I have never even heard of a ghost weapon capable of 7 uses." The shopkeeper handed the short sword back to me and said, "Young brother, I have gathered the buyers for you. You may handle the rest as you see fit." I nodded and held up the short sword, explaining that this low-grade ghost weapon could indeed be used 7 times. At that moment, someone suddenly interrupted, "Why does this boy refer to such a peak-grade treasure as a low-grade ghost weapon? It should be classified as a peak-grade ghost weapon at the very least." I was left speechless and asked, "Is an item with a limited number of uses truly considered a peak-grade treasure? If so, what classification would a ghost weapon that can be used permanently fall under?" Everyone who heard this question drew a sharp breath in shock. Who among them had ever witnessed a ghost weapon that could be used permanently? Such a thing would undoubtedly be a priceless artifact. Observing the crowd arguing amongst themselves, I realized the situation immediately. It seemed these people had no concept of a ghost weapon capable of permanent use. Deciding to steer the conversation back to the matter at hand, I spoke up. "So how many underworld coins is this ghost weapon worth?" Someone shouted, "For a peak-grade item of this nature, it depends entirely on your demands, but it should fetch between 20 and 30,000 underworld coins." Upon hearing this, I was overjoyed. I had never expected such a low-grade ghost weapon to command such a high price. I loudly asked the crowd, "Is there anyone here who wishes to buy this?" However, no one responded. It was not that they lacked the desire, but rather that they simply lacked the wealth. Just as I began to fear that no one would be able to afford it, a woman dressed in a cheongsam stepped forward and asked, "How much are you asking for this ghost weapon?" I looked at the poised woman and replied, 32,000 underworld coins. The woman in the cheongsam, Hong Nan Huan, agreed to the price without a moment's hesitation. My initial reaction was that I had grossly underestimated the price. I knew this young lady had wealth, but I had not expected her to be this affluent. She agreed to pay 32,000 Ming coins without even attempting to negotiate. Just then, a green-haired man intervened, stating, "I also wish to purchase this ghostly artifact." Hong Nan Huan frowned at the sight of him and asked, "Zhao Xiaoqiang, what is the meaning of this?" He replied that he meant nothing in particular. "I simply desire this ghostly artifact as well. After all, who wouldn't want such a top-tier treasure?" Hong Nan Huan said indignantly, "I have already reached an agreement on the price." Zhao Xiaoqiang interrupted her bluntly, "But you have yet to hand over the payment, which means the transaction is not complete." I offer 35,000 Ming coins. Hong Nanhuan fell silent immediately, knowing full well she could not compete with the financial backing of Zhao Xiaoqiang. She prepared to leave, but I stepped forward to block her path, saying, "Beautiful lady, do not be in such a hurry to depart. I am a man who values his word. Having promised to sell this ghostly artifact to you, I will not go back on it. Give me the 32,000 Ming coins, and this artifact is yours." As I spoke, I handed the sword over to Hong Nanhuan. She was visibly stunned, never expecting to encounter someone with such integrity in this world. Without hesitation, she produced the 32,000 Ming coins and handed them to me. Seeing that the transaction was finalized, Zhao Xiaoqiang wore a look of disappointment and prepared to seek out other wares. However, I called out to him, "Brother, are you intending to leave just like that?" He replied, "Since you have already sold your ghostly artifact, I naturally have no reason to stay." I smiled and said, "Do not be so hasty. I have another ghostly artifact in my possession. Would you care to take a look?" Everyone present was astonished once again. There is yet another top-tier ghostly artifact? The foundations of this fellow must be truly profound. Zhao Xiaoqiang looked at the sword at my waist and asked, "Are you planning to sell that one to me?" I quickly waved my hand, "Not that one, I am referring to these shears." With that, I produced a ghostly artifact shaped like a pair of scissors. Zhao Xiaoqiang examined the shears before him and asked with a smirk, "Is this artifact truly top tier?" "I only settle for the highest quality." I smiled and gave my word, of course. "This artifact is identical to the one just sold, capable of being used 7 times. Zhao Xiaoqiang remained slightly skeptical, but the moment he took hold of the shears, his doubts vanished. It was indeed a top-tier artifact with 7 uses remaining. Immediately after, I replied that the price was also 32,000 Underworld coins. Zhao Xiaoshang, upon hearing this, readily handed over the 32,000 Underworld coins, while Hong Nangshan, standing beside him, saw her expression darken. She had believed she had encountered a man of noble character, but it turned out he had only acted that way out of fear that she, as a customer, would leave. She turned to leave immediately, but to her surprise, I called out to her once more, "Beautiful lady, do you have any more need for top-grade ghost artifacts?" "I still have some here." Hong Nongshun looked at me, visibly shaken, as I produced another spherical ghost artifact. Just where did this fellow acquire such a vast quantity of top-grade ghost artifacts? However, she had already exhausted her supply of Underworld coins. Thus, she shook her head to indicate she had no further need. I felt a slight sense of regret. I then turned toward Zhao Xiaoqiang, looking at him with expectation, and asked, "Are you interested in this ghost artifact?" Zhao Xiaoqiang hesitated for a moment, then tactfully declined. It was not that he lacked the desire, but rather that his own Underworld coins were insufficient. Seeing this, I had no choice but to ask the surrounding crowd once more if anyone wished to make a purchase. Yet, after waiting for a long while, no one responded. It seemed I would not be making any more sales today. With that, I retrieved the ghost artifact and leisurely walked toward the ghost trading district of the Four Directions courtyard, where I utilized my ghost eye skill to identify the spirits present. Very quickly, I was drawn to a common grade ghost huddled in a corner named Jingshui, currently at the common realm with a skill called Sun Fearlessness. After utilizing this skill, a ghost would no longer fear the light of the sun. I stared in astonishment at the information before me. This ability was truly preposterous. One must understand that ghosts are deathly afraid of the sun. Ordinary low-level ghosts dare not manifest during the day. Even more formidable ghosts can only dwell in places providing cover from the light. At this moment, a young woman asked, "Sir, do you wish to purchase my ghost?" Before I could even speak, the owner of the adjacent stall interjected, "That is merely a common grade ghost. It has no practical use whatsoever. Would you rather examine the ghosts at my stall instead?" Hearing the stall owner's words, the young woman bowed her head in helplessness. She was well aware that her ghost was only of the common grade and possessed little value. Ignoring the stall owner entirely, I said to the young woman, "I will take this ghost." The young woman stood in stunned silence, doubting whether she had heard me correctly. I simply took out 1,000 Underworld coins, handed them over, and asked, "Is 1,000 Underworld coins sufficient?" The girl replied with great agitation, "It is enough. It is more than enough. Thank you, sir." Once the transaction was complete, I reached out my hand toward the ghost. Without a moment's hesitation, I claimed it for myself. Next, I drove to the luxurious villa that Shan Yun had prepared for me. As soon as I entered, I could not wait to release the daily ghost I had just acquired. I placed my hand upon the crown of its head. I activated the ghost suppression manual to subjugate this spirit. Ding, congratulations, you have obtained the ghostly trajectory. With this trajectory in my possession, I could summon spirits at will, at any time. At that very moment, the ghost runner Li Quan suddenly appeared in my room. "Lord of the Underworld. You called for me," I said, nodding. "Come here, I will heal your wounds now." He replied, "My lord, my injuries will heal on their own in time. You need not squander your Underworld coins on my recovery." I did not entertain his objections. I produced 10,000 Underworld coins, refined them into ghostly energy, and channeled the flow into Li Quan's body. In short order, Li Quan's wounds were completely healed. He spoke, "I am eternally grateful for your benevolence, Lord of the Underworld." I waved my hand and said, "There is no need for such formalities. Stay here for the next few days, as I will likely have tasks for you to attend to." Li Quan bowed respectfully. "I shall await your command," before departing from the room. It was at this moment that my phone began to ring. Upon answering, the voice of Qing Yun came through the line. "Brother Mo, the individuals who came to the Jin Ancestral Hall to sell spirits last week are returning in 7 days. If you intend to track them down, you must prepare accordingly. Upon hearing this, my spirit was immediately stirred. Those who capture spirits are finally about to surface. I must ensure I am well prepared. I desire to see exactly who possesses the audacity to capture the spirits belonging to the Underworld capital. Once I hung up, the phone began to ring once more. It was Li Bingyan calling. As soon as the line connected, I heard her speak. I invite you to visit the headquarters of the Ghost Suppression Society tomorrow. I have a matter that requires your assistance. I agreed readily, assuming she intended to assign me a mission to hunt spirits. It appears the time has come to elevate my own strength. Thus I summoned she into my presence. My lord, what are your instructions? I smiled and replied, I intend to elevate your cultivation. I proceeded to bring forth 20,000 underworld coins. A thunderous roar erupted as the underworld coins were instantly incinerated, and immediately after, streams of ghostly energy began to flow slowly into Shenxi's body. Shenxi let out a screech that would chill any soul to the bone. One could see flames gradually igniting within her eye sockets. The color of her physical form began to deepen and solidify. She appeared as if she were becoming a truly corporeal entity. Sensing that she had successfully advanced to the nightmare grade, Shenxi immediately cupped her hands in gratitude. I offer my deepest thanks, my lord, for your cultivation. I pondered for a moment before replying, from now on, you need not remain confined within the soul-suppressing tome. Simply follow by my side and await my commands. Shinji agreed with visible agitation, fully aware that her status had been elevated. She was no longer comparable to the other spirits contained within the tome. Following this, I summoned Shi Jing and produced another 20,000 underworld coins. Repeating the previous process, Shi Jing's physical form also began to grow dense and substantial. Shi Jing clenched his fists in excitement, realizing he had finally ascended to the nightmare grade. He then cupped his hands in gratitude. I offer my deepest thanks, my lord, for your cultivation. I gave a casual grunt and said, you shall also follow by my side from now on and obey my instructions. The following day, I arrived at the Spirit Master Society as promised. Upon seeing me, Li Bingyan produced a business card and handed it over. This is your identification card for the Spirit Master Society. With this card in your possession, no matter what difficulties you encounter, you may call upon the Spirit Master Society for assistance. I nodded, accepted the card, and asked, was there anything else you wish to discuss? Li Bingyan spoke with a hint of hesitation. That top-tier ghost energy artifact. Do you have any more? It appeared that the news of me selling such an artifact at the Sifang Pavilion yesterday had already spread throughout the circles of spirit masters. I readily produced a small blade imbued with ghost energy, handed it to Li Bingyan and stated, although we are acquaintances, the required underworld coins must still be paid. Sensing the immense power radiating from the artifact, Li Bingyan smiled as she withdrew a stack of underworld coins and said, I shall offer you 30,000 underworld coins to purchase your artifact. I accepted the coins and remarked, if you have any associates who wish to acquire top-tier ghost energy artifacts, you may send them to me. Li Bingyan raised an eyebrow, thinking to herself, could it be that this man still possesses more artifacts of such caliber? At that exact moment, a man dressed in a suit suddenly strode into the room. Seeing this, Li Bingyan turned to me and said, else, would you mind taking your leave for now? However, just as I prepared to depart, the man in the suit blocked my path. Young brother, do not be in such a hurry to leave. I wish to inquire if you still have more. Li Bingyan furrowed her brows slightly as she spoke. Sorhan Long, he is my friend. He replied, I am not causing any trouble for this little brother. I am merely inquiring if he possesses any more ghost artifacts. Sorhan Long cut her off abruptly, then turned his gaze toward me, his eyes gleaming with greed. I retrieved another ghost artifact, this one shaped like a silver needle. Upon seeing that I had truly produced a top-tier ghost artifact, Sorhan Long snatched it directly from my hand. After observing it for a moment, he lavished it with praise, declaring it to be an exceptional treasure. Without hesitation, he tucked the ghost artifact away. I reminded him 32,000 underworld coins. Sorhan Long gave a dismissive laugh, saying he understood, and prepared to turn and leave. I immediately raised my hand to block his path, once again reminding him of the 32,000 underworld coins. Seeing my lack of compliance, Sorhan Long lost his composure. He wiped the smile from his face and said, little brother, just gift this ghost artifact to me. In the future, I shall assist you in elevating your status within the Ghost Control Society. I rejected him outright. Either pay me the 32,000 underworld coins or return the ghost artifact to me. Sorhan Long's brows knit together in irritation. Molin, we are both members of the Ghost Control Society and will be colleagues. Is it truly so difficult for you to gift me a single artifact? Seeing me shake my head in refusal, Sorhan Long prepared to resort to force. You brat, you are truly stubborn. Are you seeking to stir up trouble with me? As the words left his lips, Sorhan Long summoned his contracted ghost. Instantly, this spirit locked its aura onto me. He continued, gift this artifact to me and consider it a gesture of our friendship. Before he could finish his sentence, a crimson silhouette suddenly manifested, slapping his fierce-level ghost aside. The entire building trembled violently from the impact. Shenxi roared, who dares to bully my master? The overwhelming pressure of a nightmare-level ghost flooded the building, causing Li Bingyan's heart to constrict in terror. This is a nightmare-level ghost. She glanced at Sorhan Long, let out a cold huff and retreated, having no intention of interfering in such a dangerous matter. Shenxi seized Sorhan Long, leaving him completely unable to resist. The chasm in power was simply too vast. Very quickly, other members of the Ghost Control Society flooded into the room. However, the moment they realized they were facing a nightmare-level ghost, they were struck with utter helplessness. Before this group could even voice their protest, a surge of black chi swept across everyone present in the next moment, and immediately thereafter, their bodies suddenly stiffened. One could see that their necks were all tightly bound by an iron chain. Following the direction of the chain, it was revealed to be yet another nightmare-level spirit. It turned out that Shi Xing had made his move. In a single moment, Shi Xing had seized control over the lives of everyone present. Li Bingyan, who was usually the picture of composure, felt her scalp go numb. One must understand that a single nightmare-level spirit is capable of slaughtering an entire plaza. Yet I possess two such nightmare-level spirits. At the very least, within this entire city of Yunchuan, there was no one who could stand against me. As for Chu Hanling, he was left completely dumbfounded. What manner of bizarre situation was this? Since when did nightmare-level spirits become as common as vegetables at a market? Just then, Shen Shi spoke up, "My lord, shall I slaughter everyone here?" As soon as the words left her lips, everyone present gasped in terror. How could this nightmare-level spirit be so bloodthirsty? Chu Hanling's heart skipped a beat. He had no desire to die, so he hurriedly apologized to my brother. "My apologies, I will give you the Underworld coins. I will pay to purchase this ghostly artifact." Upon hearing this, I waved my hand and commanded him to be released. Shenji immediately let go, and Chu Hanling crashed to the ground. Yet he paid no mind to whether he was injured or not. He immediately withdrew 32,000 Underworld coins and handed them over to my brother. "I offended you earlier. Please accept my deepest apologies," he said, his attitude as submissive as possible. Seeing this, prepared to step back behind me, but she accidentally brushed against my hair. She was immediately startled and knelt down. "My lord, I apologize. I have offended you through my carelessness." The crowd was rendered speechless. How could a nightmare-level spirit be so subservient? What sort of methods had this man used? Li Bingyan swallowed hard. How on earth had this Molin managed to train nightmare-level spirits to such a state? I paid no heed to the crowd's reaction and spoke, "Fine, disperse." Hearing this, Shenxi let out a sigh of relief, then vanished alongside Xixing. Seeing this, Chu Hanling hurriedly concocted an excuse. "Brother Mo, I offended you earlier, but my wife has fallen ill. I must go attend to her. If there is nothing else, I shall take my leave." Having said that, he fled in a panic. Li Bingyan also shouted at the crowd, "Everyone, return to your duties." Seeing that everyone else had departed, Li Bingyan finally spoke up. "Was that all of your true strength displayed just now with those two spirits?" I replied indifferently, "Hardly. Those two spirits were merely the tip of the iceberg regarding my true capabilities." Upon hearing this, Li Bingyan was so astonished she could hardly close her mouth. Is this truly only the tip of the iceberg? Could it be that Molin possesses spirits even more formidable than the nightmare grade? Fortunately, I managed to recruit him into the Spirit Tamer Society. At least we are not adversaries. Li Bingyan then cautiously asked, "So, are you still willing to take on minor missions, such as capturing spirits?" I smiled and answered, "Of course. Simply assign the spirit capture missions to me. Whether it is a formal mission or not holds no importance to me. The true priority is the capture of spirits, specifically capturing those that possess unique attributes." Having heard this, Li Bingyan pulled out her phone and said, "In that case, I will add you to the Yunchuan Spirit Tamer group. Missions are occasionally posted in the group. You may accept whichever ones you find suitable." No sooner had I joined the group than I noticed a message. "Level 3 Spirit Tamer Yun Lin is in danger in the western suburbs. Is there anyone in the vicinity of the western suburbs? Please provide assistance immediately." I stroked my chin in contemplation. It is broad daylight, so how could there be any danger? Observing me reading the group message, Li Bingyan probed, "Brother Mo, why don't you make a trip there yourself?" I nodded, readily agreeing, but as I prepared to leave, I considered requesting the Spirit Tamer Society to scout for information on my behalf. Consequently, I turned back and asked her to help me track the whereabouts of a spirit named Zishang Qingro. Li Bingyan asked with surprise, "Zishang Qingro? Has that spirit not already dissipated?" These words struck me like a bolt of lightning. I rushed forward, asking agitatedly, "What do you mean by dissipated? How could she have possibly dissipated?" Li Bingyan was startled by my sudden intensity. She hurriedly explained, "A year ago she came to our Spirit Tamer Society seeking assistance, but the superiors of the society could not reach a consensus and ultimately turned her away. Afterward, no further news of her was ever heard. I assumed she must have perished." I pressed her urgently. "Why did she come to the Spirit Tamer Society in the first place?" Li Bingyan gritted her teeth as she explained, "This matter has far-reaching implications. I only know a fragment of the truth. It seems she was driven into a corner by the demons of the demon realm, and is now seeking the protection of the Demon Taming Society." Upon hearing the words demon realm, a wave of bitter hatred washed over me. In the Underworld, the Ghost Knight City and the Demon Realm are sworn enemies. Now that we are in the mortal realm, the Demon Realm continues to cling to us like a persistent leech. Are these demons truly afflicted with some madness? Can they not occupy themselves without constantly seeking trouble for the Ghost Knight City? If I had not yet reached the Monarch rank, I would have personally annihilated these wretches. Li Bingyan looking somewhat unsettled by my display of anger. At that very moment, I posed a question. "Can you confirm that Zishang Qingro has truly perished?" Li Bingyan replied nervously, "I cannot be certain. I only surmise that she has dissipated. I will assist you in investigating information regarding Zishang Qingro immediately." As soon as I have news, I will inform you. I nodded, responding, once you have found information on Zishang Qingro, simply call me. I then departed, driving toward the school where Yunlin was located on the western outskirts. As I entered the school grounds, I saw a crowd of people surrounding Yunlin from a distance. I could faintly hear the sound of Yunlin grinding her teeth in frustration. I captured this ghost. On what grounds should I surrender it to you? A rotund man responded with utter shamelessness. We had our eyes on this ghost long ago. It is only because you were swifter that you managed to capture it first. The prey that we have targeted should be returned to us. Yunlin furrowed her brows slightly. It seemed that today's dispute would not be resolved amicably. She cast a glance around, hoping that the distress signal she had sent to the group would bring reinforcements. When her gaze finally fell upon me, her face betrayed a look of surprise. Ignoring the others, I walked straight toward Yunlin and demanded to know who these people were. She replied, these individuals belong to the Zilong Association. I captured a ghost yesterday, and they are attempting to seize it from me. I asked with a hint of confusion, what exactly is the Zilong Association? Yunlin explained, the Zilong Association, much like our Demon Taming Society, belongs to the Orthodox organizations, though the Zilong Association primarily handles trivial matters. After her explanation, she looked past me and asked where the others were. I answered calmly, there are no others, I am the only one here. Yunlin grew visibly anxious. If only Molin had come, it was as good as if no one had come at all. The fat man, seeing this, laughed like a swine at Yunlin. Did she summon him here just to be beaten? Yunlin gritted her teeth, stepping in front of me before turning to signal with her eyes, urging me to flee. I paid her no heed, instead scanning those before us. There were only 3 second-tier ghost tamers and 4 first-tier ghost tamers. Filled with curiosity, I looked at Yunlin and asked why a third-tier ghost tamer like her would fear such people. Before Yunlin could answer, the fat man opposite us pointed triumphantly at the sun above, sneering, so what if he is a third-tier ghost tamer? No matter how powerful he may be, he cannot manifest a ghost under the light of the sun. Fury flared in Yunlin's eyes. If not for the fact that ghosts could not materialize in direct sunlight, she would have long since summoned her contracted ghost to teach this fat fool a lesson. A realization dawned upon me and I nodded. I turned to Yunlin and said, leave this to me. The fat man let out a scornful laugh. You brat, do you intend to stand against all of us alone? With a wave of my hand, I silently invoked a soul refinement trajectory and instantly an iron chain materialized, lashing out violently against the fat man. A shriek as shrill as a slaughtered beast echoed across the plaza. Seeing this, the men behind the fat man were so terrified that they retreated in haste. Yunlin stared at the scene, her face etched with disbelief. How could he possibly utilize a trajectory under the brilliance of the sun? Under normal circumstances, even I would be unable to employ such a technique in the sunlight. However, I had just acquired a formidable and unconventional trajectory known as Sunless Void. Once activated, this skill allows ghosts to ignore the sun, moving freely even in the daylight. But for this lowly pack of fools, there was no need to summon a ghost. A simple trajectory was more than enough. I swung the chain once more, striking him heavily. The excruciating pain caused him to writhe and roll upon the ground. I addressed the remaining men in a frigid tone. Does anyone else wish to obstruct my path? Seeing that none dared to speak, I took Yunlin and departed the school grounds immediately. After parting ways with Yunlin, I prepared to drive home. Yet after circling these roads for over an hour, I found myself unable to find the way out. Could it be that a ghost is blocking the path? I stepped out of the vehicle and saw that the surroundings were swallowed by a thick white mist. Furthermore, there was no road to be found anywhere. Only mounds of earth. When did I wander into such a place? I quickly detected a trace of spiritual trajectory lingering in the air, and after following the lingering ghostly aura for some time, I heard a chilling, pathetic sobbing. I followed the sound and discovered a woman crouching beside a large boulder. Perhaps hearing my footsteps, she turned her head to face me. I was so startled that I blurted out, "Damn it, how hideous." Immediately, I could not control myself. I drew my longsword and stood before her, demanding to know why she dared to obstruct my path. The female spirit muttered incessantly, demanding that I return her child. You stole my child. I shall make all of you pay with your lives. Having said that, she prepared to stake everything on a final desperate assault against me. However, in the very next moment, she froze in place and exclaimed, "Lord Molin!" I was momentarily stunned. Who was this spirit before me, and how could she know my name? She must certainly be an acquaintance of mine. I was not wearing my underworld robes at this time. No spirit could possibly address me as Lord unless they knew me personally. The female spirit spoke hurriedly. I am in Xiaohua. Do you still remember the affair regarding the ghost mother? I suddenly realized it is you? As it turned out, back when I was cultivating the 5 Viscera ghost technique in the Netherworld, the very first spirit I subdued was indeed the ghost mother. Because the ghost mother was an extraordinary entity, I had required the assistance of Anjiaohua to successfully subdue her at the time. Puzzled, I asked her, if you knew it was me, why did you deliberately block my way? And Xiaohua began to look around anxiously as she spoke. That is not the case. Perhaps my resentment has become so potent that it has distorted the surrounding environment, causing me to obstruct you inadvertently. Shortly thereafter, she began to sob and said, Lord, you must help me. A group of strangers has abducted my child, and I have no way to track them down. Fearing that I might refuse, and Xiaohua hurriedly added, Lord Molin, as long as you are willing to help me find my child, I am willing to repay your kindness 100-fold. I pondered for a moment before replying, I can agree to help you find your child, but you must sign a soul-binding contract of submission to me. And Xiaohua agreed without the slightest hesitation. As long as you help me find my child, even if it meant my soul would be scattered and destroyed, I would be willing. I nodded and said, then follow me. Upon hearing this, Xiaohua transformed into a wisp of mist and attached herself to the longsword in my hand. I then opened my phone and sent a message to the group chat. Does anyone have access to reliable intelligence? I wish to inquire about matters concerning spirits. Very quickly, an individual named Feng Mingwu responded to me. Are you looking to capture a spirit? We exchanged private contact information to discuss the details further. I sent a friend request to Feng Mingwu and sent a message to greet him. My intention was to locate the ghost child that had been abducted. He replied promptly, instructing me to meet him at the Wanling Technical Center that evening so he could guide me. Shortly after, I put away my phone and drove back home. As soon as I entered the house, Li Quan appeared to report master. After your departure, an intruder managed to slip inside. My expression darkened, and I demanded to know if the identity of the intruder was discovered. Li Quan responded immediately, I have marked the intruder with a lingering scent. Shall I pursue them for you? I nodded and replied, go and investigate the identity of this person. But exercise caution. If they are connected to the ghost realm, your survival must remain the highest priority. Li Quan bowed in agreement and vanished into the shadows. By 7 p.m., I drove to the Wanling Technical Center. Upon meeting him, I immediately asked if he could assist me in finding the ghost child. Feng Mingwu smiled and said, you have come to the right person, allow me to take you to my uncle. His intelligence network is unparalleled. As long as it concerns Yunchuan, there is nothing he cannot uncover. With that, he led me toward the black market hidden beneath the technical center. At that moment, a man brushed past me and collided with my arm. I was speechless. The path was wide enough for many, yet he still managed to bump into me. However, in the very next second, my instincts flared. I hurriedly checked my pockets. It was then I realized the 10,000 Ming coins I had been carrying had vanished into thin air. There was no need for speculation. The man from a moment ago had undoubtedly stolen them. Seeing me stop in my tracks, Feng Mingwu turned back to ask, what is the matter? I stared in the direction the man had fled and replied coldly, my Ming coins have been stolen. I must retrieve them. Before he could offer a word of protest, I sprinted in the direction the thief had disappeared. Feng Mingwu chased after me, calling out anxiously, do not pursue him. Anyone daring enough to commit theft here surely has backing. Your coins are lost, and you will not be able to reclaim them. I paid no heed to Feng Mingwu's counsel. I pushed forward, quickly crossing an intersection until I saw the man dart into a small room. I arrived at the threshold of that room. Inside, a group of men had gathered, their eyes fixed on me with raw hostility. The thief stood brazenly at the back of the room, tossing the pouch containing my 10,000 Ming coins into the air. Just as I prepared to enter, a man dressed in black stepped forward to block my path. Boy, just what do you think you are doing? I pointed at the thief in their midst and said slowly, that man there has stolen my spirit coins. The man heard this and immediately replied with displeasure, and who are you calling a thief? Watch your tongue, boy. Slander carries a heavy price. No sooner had I finished speaking than the others in the hall began to close in on me. Judging by the situation, it was clear this was not their first time using their numbers to bully others. At that same moment, Feng Mingwu caught up to us, just in time to see me in a standoff with the group. Terrified, he hurried forward with an apologetic smile. My apologies, my apologies. There's been a misunderstanding. My friend is new to the black market and is unfamiliar with the rules. I hope you gentlemen will not hold this against him. The man in black showed no mercy, laughing threateningly. If he is your friend, why didn't you know how to keep him in line? This is the territory of the Sun family. Do you have any idea what the consequences of offending the Sun family are? Feng Mingwu bowed repeatedly. I know. My apologies. I will take my friend and leave at once. As Feng Mingwu spoke, he tried to pull me away, but I remained unmoved. I simply repeated that my spirit coins had been stolen by these people. Feng lowered his voice and warned me. This is the territory of Sun Tao. He is a 4th-level ghost master. Do not cause any more trouble. We must leave now. However, it was as if I had heard nothing. I continued to stare coldly at the group. Seeing this, the man in black immediately summoned his contracted spirit. The others in the hall, seeing this, simultaneously summoned their own contracted spirits as well. Realizing these people preferred the hard way, I said to Feng Mingwu, I will settle this in 10 minutes. Seeing that I was prepared to fight, Feng Mingwu could only scramble to pull out his phone and call for help in the group chat. Help! Lin is in trouble at the black market. Yun Lin saw the message in the group and immediately asked, what kind of trouble? What is going on? Feng Mingwu hurriedly replied, the 10,000 spirit coins he was carrying were stolen by one of Sun Dao's subordinates. Lin is about to fight them. Come quickly, I fear Lin might lose his life here. Yun Lin replied with concern, what? Isn't Sun Dao a 4th-level ghost master? Quickly convince Lin not to be so impulsive. Feng Mingwu was nearly on the verge of tears as he typed back, I cannot convince him at all. Are ghost masters all this ferocious these days? Ling Ji, having seen this, hurriedly replied in jest, the Sun family, is it? I will head over immediately. Upon reading Ling Shi's message, Yun Lin was overcome with relief. Yes, exactly. Ling Shi, since you are acquainted with the Sun family, hurry over there and put in a good word for us. Feng Mingwu also replied urgently, hurry. If you arrive any later, you might only be in time to collect Mo Lin's corpse. At that very moment, their contracted spirits surged toward me. Seeing this, Feng Mingwu gritted his teeth, preparing to force his way in to rescue me. Suddenly, a mournful, shrill wail echoed through the air, followed immediately by an unending chorus of ghostly shrieks. Feng Mingwu watched in astonishment as the spirits surrounding me recoiled, as if they had encountered their natural predator. They fled in a chaotic panic. Feng Mingwu rubbed his eyes, finally confirming that he had not misjudged the scene. These spirits were genuinely terrified. He even witnessed 3 of the spirits sliced clean in half, vanishing into thin air within a mere heartbeat. I merely swung my sword with my right hand. Each strike claimed a spirit, my movements fluid and seamless as flowing water. Thus, in less than a dozen seconds, more than half of the 20-odd contracted spirits were annihilated. Feng Mingwu stared at the longsword in my hand, muttering to himself, what kind of demonic artifact possesses such terrifying power? Just then, a man emerged from behind me, wielding a spiral-shaped demonic artifact and lunged toward me. Just as Feng Mingwu braced himself for the moment I would be wounded, he saw me spin and lash out with my blade. A sickening thud sounded as the man's arm, still clutching his weapon, was severed instantly. After dealing with the swarm, a single spirit remained, hovering in the air. Its trajectory was peculiar, and I decided that rather than slaying it, I would subdue it. The contracted spirit sensed the shift in fortune and attempted to flee back to its master. However, with a simple wave of my hand, I suppressed the spirit and sealed it within my own spatial vessel. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the teleportation trajectory. Upon usage, you may instantly appear at any location within your line of sight. At that same moment, a man felt his connection to his contracted spirit sever completely. He shrieked at me in fury. By what right do you dare steal my contracted spirit? Return my spirit at once. I kicked the man away and addressed the others. Does anyone else have an objection? Step forward if you do. The scene fell into a deathly silence. No one dared to utter a single word. Feng Mingwu felt as though he had just been rendered speechless. He had contemplated many possible outcomes for this absurd situation, but he had never imagined that I single-handedly could eliminate. At that moment, I stepped into the room. The thief hiding in the corner turned deathly pale, his previous arrogance entirely extinguished. Please, big brother, spare me. As the thief spoke, he submissively returned the 10,000 Ming coins while Feng Mingwu stood by in a state of agitation. Having single-handedly devastated the Sun family's territory, it was clear that the Sun family would soon be arriving. True to expectation, a short while later, a middle-aged man appeared at the main entrance. The wreckage within the hall, he questioned me coldly, "You brat, what is the meaning of this?" I replied indifferently, "Your people stole my currency. I am merely meting out a small punishment." Sun Tao let out a cold snort. "Do you not think you have gone too far?" Before his words had even faded, I rested my long sword upon Sun Tao's shoulder and said with a smile, "I do not believe I have overstepped at all." Immediately thereafter, my expression darkened. "I am currently in a foul mood. It would be best for you not to provoke me." Sun Tao raised his hand, intending to snap the blade resting against him. However, the very moment his hand made contact with the razor-sharp steel, the contract ghost within his body emitted a surge of raw terror. "Do not provoke him, you will perish. Under no circumstances are you to cross him." It was staggering to realize that his own terrifying tier contract ghost was now trembling with such profound fear. Feng Mingwu swallowed nervously, thinking to himself, Molin is truly formidable, he fears no one. To stand before a level 4 ghost controller without the slightest hesitation even going so far as to provoke them. Just as Feng Mingwu braced for a clash, Sun Tao offered a sycophantic smile and said, "You have not gone too far at all. It is they who were in the wrong." I withdrew my sword and spoke coldly, "Manage your people well. Should there be a next time, I would not mind teaching you a lesson as well." Sun Tao replied, "I understand," his demeanor entirely devoid of any trace of anger. A subordinate standing nearby could no longer bear the sight of this. He stepped forward to remind him, "Master Sun, this brat has destroyed our base, and he has even seized the contract ghosts of our brothers. Are we simply going to let it end like this?" Sun Tao struck the man, sending him flying with a single slap. I asked Feng Mingwu, "This is the black market. I assume there are no consequences for killing someone here, correct?" Feng Yu hurriedly replied, "None at all." Sun Tao could not help but break into a cold sweat. It was abundantly clear that this remark was directed at him. If he were to make any rash move, it was certain that someone would die here today. Seeing that the master of the Sun family knew his place, I led the still-dazed Feng Mingwu away. Feng Mingwu hastily opened the Yunshuan Ghost Control Society chat group, finding that everyone was incessantly asking about the situation. Feng Mingwu hurriedly messaged Lin Shi, telling him there was no need to come as the matter had already been resolved. Everyone in the group began asking, had Mo Lin been dealt with? Had Mo Lin been beaten to death? Had the Sun family finally taken action? The chat group was instantly flooded with a barrage of inquiries. Seeing this, Feng Mingwu could not help but smile helplessly. He quickly replied, "He is perfectly fine," adding, "Even that old man Sun Dao would not dare to seek trouble with Mo Lin. Mo Lin single-handedly destroyed the Sun family's gambling den. It was truly impressive. He is simply invincible. The Sun family wouldn't dare lay a finger on him." After sending these words, he paid no mind to the explosive surge of messages in the group. He put his phone away, pointed to the longsword at my waist, and curiously asked, "Mo Lin, what grade is this ghostly artifact?" I did not answer. There was no need to discuss matters of yin energy with someone from the realm of the living. Seeing that I was unwilling to answer, Feng Mingwu tactfully changed the subject. "Your ghost contract must be of a terrifying rank, right?" I shook my head and replied, it is not. Feng Mingwu covered his mouth in astonishment. Could it be a nightmare rank ghost? I did not directly confirm it, but instead urged him, enough, stop being so inquisitive. Weren't you going to help me investigate some information? Feng Mingwu composed himself, shaking off his surprise, and said, yes, yes, of course, this way. Very quickly, we arrived at an anonymous shop where an old man was sitting inside. Feng Mingwu pointed to the old man and introduced him to me. This is my uncle. Lu Feng stopped what he was doing, looked up and smiled. Ningyu, you've arrived? It has been a long time. How have you been lately? Feng Mingwu replied that he was doing well, and then introduced me. This is my friend Mo Lin. Upon hearing my name, Lu Feng stepped forward to observe me closely and spoke. I know you. You are the young man who caused such a commotion at the Xian family estate a few days ago, and nearly turned the Ghost Suppression Society headquarters upside down yesterday. Not to mention, you were the one who sold those top-tier ghostly artifacts. Hearing these words from Lu Feng, I immediately realized that the information network of Feng Mingwu's uncle was truly formidable. Lu Feng spoke again. What business do you have with me? I went straight to the point. I have come to ask who was responsible for abducting a ghost child some time ago. Upon hearing this, Lu Feng took out a ledger and said, let me check that for you. He began flipping through the pages of the ledger with great speed. Immediately thereafter, he located the information I required and transcribed it onto a piece of paper. He then handed over the paper and stated that the information I needed was written upon it. 1,000 Ming coins, no bargaining. I did not hesitate to produce the 1,000 Ming coins and pass them to him. I then took the paper and unfolded it. It was written that the ghost child had been seized by the disciples of the Qi Dao sect. Seeing that our transaction had been successful, Feng Mingyu spoke up. His information is incredibly precise. If it is information provided by him, it is 100% authentic. I nodded and inquired where the Qi Dao sect was located and what kind of place it was. Feng Mingyu's pupils suddenly contracted as he exclaimed, my ancestor, you aren't planning to go to the Qi Dao sect to stir up trouble, are you? I replied helplessly, it cannot be considered stirring up trouble. I am merely going to reclaim what is mine. Feng Mingyu clearly did not believe me, and with a slight curl of his lip, he remarked, the Qi Dao sect holds a very prestigious position in Yunchuan. There are two major Taoist sects in total within Yunchuan. The first is the Jin Sahal, and the second is the Qi Dao sect. Within the Jin Sahal, there are both ghost tamers and Taoist priests, but in the Qi Dao sect, everyone is a Taoist priest. There are over a dozen of them. I rubbed my chin in deep thought. I had never interacted with Taoist priests before, but my master back in the mortal realm was once a celestial master respected by all, and he also belonged to a branch of Taoism. Seeing that I remained silent, Feng Mingyu spoke again. The Qi Dao sect consists of orthodox Taoist priests. They possess specialized skills for capturing ghosts, and their primary source of income is helping others exorcise spirits, though they occasionally engage in other minor trades. Selling ghosts, for instance. I nodded and said, very well, I understand. I then turned and began to leave. Feng Mingyu watched my retreating figure, speechless. This fellow Mo Lin had not heeded a single word of his advice. After a moment of hesitation, Feng Mingyu followed behind me, fearing that the eventual outcome would be beyond salvation. When I arrived before the grand gates of the Qi Dao sect, before I could even take any action, a young man guarding the gate cried out in alarm, eldest martial brother, save me. He screamed and turned, rushing headlong into the Taoist temple. I stood rooted to the spot, looking around in bewilderment. There were no ghosts here. I was completely alone. Could it be that the spirit he spoke of was none other than myself? I was deeply perplexed. Back when I had just returned, I was mistaken for a ghost in the mortal realm, and now, the same misunderstanding had occurred again. What could be the reason for this? At that moment, the young man from earlier emerged, accompanied by a stout senior disciple. The stout senior walked out while shouting, his expression reflecting a sheltered life that had never seen the true dangers of the world. What is there to fear? We are Taoists, cultivators who hunt ghosts. For you to be frightened into such a state by a mere spirit, do you not fear the humiliation should word get out? Huh. The stout senior let out a cold snort, but the very moment he reached the threshold, he shrieked that there was a ghost. Trembling with terror, the stout senior retreated and shouted to the man beside him, hurry, close the doors. Do not let the ghost rush in. The man replied in a timid whisper, Senior, closing the door seems to be of no use. As it turned out, all the disciples of the Qi Dao temple practiced a basic introductory technique known as the aura observation art. They relied on this art to judge the nature of ghosts. The moment the stout senior utilized his aura observation art, a surging, malevolent ghost aura struck him, leaving him breathless. At that precise moment, I raised my hand and knocked gently on the door, asking if anyone was home. The stout senior muttered, this ghost is surprisingly polite, yet he remained trembling uncontrollably from fear. It was his first time encountering a spirit so audacious, to dare knock on the doors of a Taoist temple. Was this not akin to a mouse invading a cat's den? With that, the stout senior yelled to the man beside him, quickly, go summon the senior apprentice brother. At that moment, the senior apprentice brother was resting in his chambers. Upon hearing that a ghost had besieged the temple, he rose at once and strode toward the front courtyard. What are you all doing? To be reduced to such a state by a mere ghost, where is the dignity of our sect? Open the door. The stout senior lowered his voice, cautioning, Senior brother, this is truly a vicious spirit. Wan Yu roared, overflowing with righteous energy, open the door at once. Taoists who fear ghosts? Wouldn't that make us the laughingstock of the entire cultivation world? Seeing no other option, the stout senior gritted his teeth and opened the doors. And the moment I stepped into the courtyard, Wan Yu and the others simultaneously recoiled. This was in truth an exceptionally ferocious ghost. Wan Yu, who had been brimming with confidence, realized that even with the intruder restraining his ghost aura, the pressure was already this immense. If the entity were to release his full aura, the scene before them would surely be beyond terrifying. And at this point, Wan Yu no longer harbored any intentions of capturing the ghost, for he did not only perceive an overwhelming aura of ghostly energy, but he also witnessed that the creature was nurturing 5 malevolent spirits within its own body. With a sudden jolt, he averted his gaze, gritted his teeth, and demanded, "Why have you come to my Kidao pavilion?" I spoke up, "Did you not capture a ghost child several days ago?" Wan Yu nodded, admitting it to be true. "The mother of that ghost child is deeply distressed. Can you return the child to me? I am willing to offer you underworld currency in exchange." Upon hearing this, Wan Yu's expression turned deathly pale. This ghost before him dared to openly demand a spirit from his own hands. This was an utter lack of respect for the Kidao pavilion, and a complete insult to these Taoist priests. As for me, I remained perplexed. I had only spoken a simple request, so why did the expressions of these Taoists turn as foul as if they had tasted dung? I was not asking for the ghost child for free. Was I not offering to pay in underworld currency? So I pressed the matter, "Is it possible to release the child?" Wan Yu's heart skipped a beat. The entity before him was clearly threatening him. To be threatened by a ghost, if word of this were to spread, the shame would be unbearable. Yet he still commanded his disciples to bring forth the little ghost captured days prior. Moments later, a junior disciple arrived carrying a dark gray urn. Sealed with a talisman, Wan Yu removed the charm from the vessel, and a timid shadow emerged from within. The ghost child was quite small, appearing to be no more than 7 or 8 years of age. The moment it laid eyes on Wan Yu and the others, it instinctively retreated, and cowered in fear. When it saw me, however, it cried out in surprise, "Lord Mo Lin." This address of Lord Mo Lin only solidified Wan Yu's conviction that I was not only a ghost, but a ghost of significant standing. The ghost child ran toward me and expressed its gratitude. It was deeply moved by the life-saving grace of Lord Mo Lin. Meanwhile, I called out loudly, "En Xiaohua, come forth. I have found your son for you." Upon appearing, En Xiaohua immediately stepped forward to embrace the child. She scolded him with love, telling him, "I told you not to wander off, yet you refused to listen. And now you have been captured by this wretched lot of Taoists. Do you see now? If Lord Mo Lin had not intervened to save you, you surely would not have survived." After speaking, En Xiaohua glared fiercely at Wan Yu before leading her son back onto the sword. Immediately after, I took out 2,000 Ming coins, handed them to Wan Yu, and turned to leave. Watching my departing figure, Wan Yu muttered to himself, "This ghost actually has some potential." The plump senior brother said indignantly, "Senior brother, are you just going to let this ghost leave like that?" Wan Yu let out a cold snort and replied, "Of course not. The dignity lost today must be reclaimed. Go purchase some talisman paper. I intend to draw a grand spirit capturing array to capture this ghost myself." Upon hearing this, the plump senior brother bowed respectfully and said, "Senior brother is wise, I shall go purchase it at once." Meanwhile, after leaving Qidao Hall, I encountered Feng Mingwu, who was rushing toward me. Seeing me, he asked in astonishment, "Are you unharmed?" I replied helplessly, "I am of course unharmed. The matter has already been resolved." Feng Mingwu was left utterly shaken. Is it truly over just like that? I had expected Mo Lin to come into conflict with the people at Qidao Hall, yet it seems nothing of the sort occurred. It appears I was overthinking things. With that, Feng Mingwu suggested, "Let us have lunch, I shall treat you to a meal." Having been busy throughout the night, I was indeed famished. Soon after, I followed Feng Mingwu into a restaurant. Upon entering, Feng Mingwu's first reaction was to complain about how filthy the place was. Turning to him, I asked, "Are you afraid of ghosts?" Feng Mingwu looked around vigilantly and asked, "What do you mean by that? Are there ghosts in here?" Suddenly realizing something, he puffed out his chest and declared, "I am a ghost controller, I do not fear ghosts." I nodded in response and said, "As long as you are not afraid, for we have walked into a den of spirits." No sooner had I finished speaking than a dozen malevolent level ghosts appeared instantly within the restaurant. Instinctively, Feng Mingwu pressed closely against me. I turned to look at him and asked, quite perplexed, "Did you not say you were not afraid of ghosts?" Hearing this, Feng Mingwu puffed out his chest again and insisted, "Of course I am not afraid." However, as he laid eyes upon a female ghost with disheveled hair, his mind was suddenly flooded with various memories. In the next moment, unable to withstand the intense mental shock, he lurched forward and vomited onto the ground. "This is a nightmare rank demon. We are doomed. This time we are truly doomed." At that very instant, I pulled him behind my back. Where Feng Minvu had been standing only moments before, a deep, jagged gash suddenly appeared. It turned out the nightmare rank demon had launched an assault without us even realizing it. Simultaneously, the tavern transformed into an open-air graveyard with corpses crawling forth from their graves. Feng Minvu could even smell the overpowering stench of decay. I explained to Feng Minvu, "Do not panic, these are merely illusions, likely the residual manifestations of the demon from before." Feng Minvu insisted once more, "I understand, I am not afraid." I remarked dryly, "If you are not afraid, then why are you clutching my robe so tightly? You are about to tear my sleeve apart." Feng Minvu stepped back in embarrassment. At that exact moment, a rotting corpse crawled directly toward his back. Just as he prepared to summon his own contracted demon, I urgently intervened. Do not summon your contracted demon. If you bring it out here, it will be devoured. If you are too terrified, simply close your eyes. Thus, Feng Minvu obediently squeezed his eyes shut and pressed tightly against my back, not daring to move a muscle. Seeing that Feng Minvu did not summon his contracted demon, the demon let out a roar of frustration. I utilized my demon eyes to examine the nightmare rank Hong Deep. Its ability, the illusionary path, draws upon the deepest fears in a person's heart to manifest terrifying hallucinations. I surveyed the surroundings briefly. It appears this graveyard illusion is precisely what Feng Minvu fears the most. Capturing this nightmare rank demon into my demon tome would be a significant acquisition. In the next heartbeat, the figure of Then Hai materialized before me. With a flick of her hand, she shattered the surrounding illusion. She then addressed me, "My lord, wait a moment. I shall resolve this disturbance for you immediately." Having said that, she surged forward while I pulled Feng Minvu along, saying, "Let us depart, we should head outside first." When Feng Minvu opened his eyes, he witnessed two nightmare-rank demons locked in combat. He asked in bewilderment, "How do I suddenly have another nightmare-rank demon? Is that your contracted demon?" I nodded, offering no further explanation. Instead, I charged directly toward a hazard-rank demon. I utilized the demon tome to compress the hazard-rank demon into a small sphere. Once captured, I immediately moved to seize the next one. Although these demons are of a lower rank, they are not to be squandered. Once captured, they may prove useful in the future. Feng Mingwu was left utterly stunned by this sight. Two nightmare tier spirits were locked in combat, yet this man, Mo Lin, was calmly capturing minor spirits, showing not a shred of concern that his own contracted spirit might be defeated. On the other side, Shen Shi fought with increasing ferocity, emitting a piercing shriek that made one's heart skip a beat. The next second, she thrust her claws through the chest of the opposing spirit before dragging it directly before me. "My lord, I have captured the spirit that dared to offend you." I raised my hand, compressing the spirit into a dense, solidified sphere. "Ding, congratulations, you have obtained a phantom trajectory. It generates 80 underworld coins daily. My passive income has increased once again." I mused that I could easily earn tens of thousands of underworld coins simply by selling off a few pieces of spirit-infused equipment. By comparison, the yield from the Orthodox Spirit Grimoire was not particularly significant. Just then, a line of text suddenly manifested upon the Orthodox Spirit Grimoire. 5 spirits captured. Capture 5 more, and your total underworld coin income will increase tenfold. I was so astonished that I could hardly close my mouth. This Orthodox Spirit Grimoire truly was an endless well of surprises. If my total income increased by tenfold, then a single Nightmare Tier Spirit would yield 800 Underworld coins per day. Since I currently possess 3 Nightmare Tier Spirits, my daily income would reach 2,400 Underworld coins. If I were to cultivate a few more Nightmare Tier Spirits, wouldn't I be wealthy beyond measure? Little did I know that the plump senior brother from the Qi Dao Temple, while out purchasing talisman paper, had observed my battle with Hong Ye from a distance. He was now frantically stammering to his senior brother Wan Yu. "Just now, on my way to purchase talisman paper, I saw the spirit that came to our temple earlier fighting against another nightmare tier entity. Should we intervene and act as the fisherman reaping the rewards?" Wan Yu hesitated, saying, "That spirit is quite ferocious. I am concerned that we may fail to capture it." The plump senior brother urged him, "I have already prepared all the necessary talisman papers. We shall lay a spirit capturing formation along the path, and since that spirit is certain to pass by, we will surely be able to subdue him." Wan Yu found this suggestion compelling and resolved to act immediately. He commanded, "Go and gather our fellow disciples. Bring the equipment, and we shall hunt this spirit together." Thus, just after Feng Mingwu and I had cleared the remnants of the battle and ventured a short distance from the spirit tavern, we were suddenly intercepted by Wan Yu's group. I saw Wan Yu holding a wooden sword in one hand and a talisman paper in the other, while muttering incantations under his breath. The others held red cords, forming a square to trap me in the center. Just as I was wondering what was happening, the plump senior brother tossed a basin of burning incense toward me. I immediately lashed out at the stout senior brother. "Have you lost your mind?" The stout senior brother wore an expression of utter disbelief. "How can you be perfectly fine? This is impossible." As he spoke, the stout senior brother produced a paper talisman and waved it before my face. Fearing I might not react, he asked in confusion, "Are you not afraid?" I slapped the stout senior brother across the face. "Is your head filled with water?" Stout senior brother spoke to senior brother Wan Yu with a look of pure grievance. "This demon is too fierce. He actually struck me." Seeing this, Wan Yu was instantly thrown into a panic. He pulled out a bell and shook it rhythmically, his lips moving in an incessant chant. My patience had completely reached its limit. These people are genuinely deranged. With that, I swung my arm, snapping the red strings blocking my path, and charged directly toward Wan Yu to confront the group. "Are all of you suffering from some middle-of-the-night madness?" Wan Yu paid me no mind. The speed of his muttering only increased. Seeing that Wan Yu would not answer, I pressed closer and roared at him. "What the devil are you muttering about?" At this moment, I was standing so close to Wan Yu that my breath brushed against his face as I spoke. Wan Yu suddenly froze. "This fellow has breath," he exclaimed in shock. "Damn it, so you are actually a human? You scared the life out of me." I truly thought I had encountered a formidable entity. No wonder these tools meant to suppress ghosts had no effect on you whatsoever. Hearing this, I became even more incensed and shouted, "You are the one who is not human." Wan Yu hurriedly replied, my apologies, I truly mistook you for a ghost." The more he explained, the more insulted I felt. With a darkened expression, I bellowed, "You are the ghost. Your whole family are ghosts. Is your brain filled with water? You cannot even distinguish between a human and a ghost?" Wan Yu wore an expression of profound embarrassment. He considered himself a master at distinguishing between humans and ghosts, but how could an ordinary person possess such a dense aura of malice? Not to mention the fact that there was a ghost residing within my body. The stout senior brother stepped forward in disbelief and asked, "What was that? This fellow is a human? What kind of person has an aura of ghostly?" As he spoke, he reached out to sense my breathing, then cried out in shock, "It truly is a living person." I replied with an expression of pure disdain, "Have you all caused enough trouble?" Wan Yu hurriedly apologized, saying it again and again. It was entirely a misunderstanding. I did not care to waste any more words on them and demanded directly, "Pay up for the damages. Your pile of incense ash has stained my entire body and ruined these clothes I just purchased." Wan Yu once again hurriedly apologized to his brother. "I am truly sorry. Please accept this as a token of my sincerity." As he spoke, Wan Yu took 2,000 Ming coins from his pocket and handed them over. Everything that happened today was a complete misunderstanding. I truly did not intend for this to happen. Seeing Wan Yu's lowered posture, I accepted the 2,000 Ming coins and said, "Do not let there be a next time." With that, I led Feng Mingwu away. The stout senior brother watched us depart and asked in bewilderment, "Senior brother, why was that person so strange? How could he possess such an oppressive aura? This is truly a rare sight." Wan Yu replied with a troubled expression, "How would I know? The world is vast, and there will always be things beyond our comprehension." A junior disciple asked nervously, "Could it be that he is cultivating some sort of demonic technique?" Wan Yu cut him off immediately. "Do not speak nonsense. That is a person we cannot afford to provoke. We will settle this when the master returns. As for today, act as if nothing ever happened and treat it as if you have never met that person." Meanwhile, on the other side, Feng Mingwu and I parted ways and I returned to my home. The underworld envoy Li Quan had been waiting for a long time. Upon seeing me, he bowed respectfully and reported, "My lord, I have tracked down the individual who trespassed a few days ago. It was Xian Wahai, the cousin of Xian Yun. He led several men here with the intent to steal." I nodded and said, "I understand. You may withdraw for now." I then thought to myself, I had assumed that the ghosts from the ghost realm had discovered me. Following that, I reflected on the fact that I had captured a dozen low-level ghosts with nowhere to house them. It seems I must refine a ghost vessel to contain these spirits by tomorrow. I then took out my phone and opened the Yunshuan Spirit Taming Society group chat. I saw that many messages regarding ghost hunting had been posted, though the majority were requests to capture minor specters. However, Task 14 immediately captured my attention. Task: 4 individuals have perished at the Daxian Underworld Sea. Dispatch someone to investigate the situation. Danger level Tier 3. Completing the mission rewards 300 nether coins. I might as well investigate whether a great demon is truly wreaking havoc here. With that, I accepted the task. The following day, at the main entrance of the Minhai Detention Center, several uniformed officers were deep in discussion. "Captain, this situation is dire. It is beyond the capabilities of ordinary men like us to manage. Rest easy and wait for the ghost controller to arrive and handle it." Just then, a man wearing a black hat suddenly approached them. Zhao hurriedly cautioned him, "This area is extremely dangerous. Please leave at once." However, before he could finish his sentence, the sharp crack of a gunshot echoed through the air. Zhao Hu's body collapsed heavily to the ground. Immediately after, the man in the black hat brandished a handgun and quickened his pace, stepping into the Minhai Detention Center. A man standing nearby finally snapped out of his shock, frantically dialing 120 for an ambulance. In a frail, gasping voice, Zhao Hu warned of the dangerous intruder. "Quickly, notify headquarters. Contact the people from the Ghost Control Agency." I had just driven near the Lingkun Detention Center when the sound of a gunshot reached my ears. By the time I accelerated to the main gate, I was already one step too late. I addressed the others. "I am from the Ghost Control Agency, and I am in charge of the mission at the Minhai Detention Center. What has happened here?" A man stepped forward and provided a brief account of the unfolding tragedy. It turned out that 4 people had died in the Minhai Detention Center the night before last, and all of them had been burned to death. Yet, there had been no fire reported within the detention center. Just moments ago, a man in a black hat had suddenly appeared, shot and wounded Captain Zhao Hu, and charged into the facility. I nodded and said, "Stay here and wait for me." No sooner had the words left my lips than my figure manifested inside the Minhai Detention Center. An immediate frigid blast of cold air struck my face. I let out a cold snort. Shenxi emerged. A female ghost clad in crimson appeared before me, bowing low as she spoke. "My lord, what are your commands?" "There is an intruder here armed with a firearm. Capture him for me." Shenj nodded in obedience and immediately phased through the ceiling to head to the upper floors. I began to ascend the stairs at a leisurely pace, but a sudden sense of foreboding washed over me. An underworld official's intuition is rarely wrong. It is usually a harbinger of something ominous about to occur. I summoned Xixing to emerge and provide support for Shenxi. Xixing asked respectfully, "My lord, you are an official of the underworld. Is there truly a matter that you cannot resolve yourself?" Seeing the gravity of my expression, Xixing fell silent, retracting his jest, and hurried off to catch up with Shenxi. I had already reached the second floor, yet at a glance it appeared entirely vacant. To guard against a potential ambush, I summoned Hong Ye back out. Once she emerged, Hong Ye trembled and whispered, "My lord, I am afraid." I was quite taken aback. What could possibly exist here that would strike fear into her? Hong Yi repeated, "Upstairs there is something that makes me feel a terror rising from the depths of my very soul." Hearing this, my expression shifted instantly and I shouted, "Shenshi, return to your form immediately." However, there was no response, so I hastily quickened my pace toward the upper level. Suddenly, a piercing shriek tore through the clouds. The sound was so shrill it caused my ears to throb with pain. Following that came a series of violent, thunderous explosions. The entire Minghai mansion shook violently. My heart skipped a beat instantly. That heart-wrenching scream I had just heard belonged to Shen Shi. I rushed toward the upper floor in a panic. Shen Shi was, after all, a nightmare-tier ghost. For her to emit such a gut-wrenching cry, the situation must be dire. That was 20,000 Ming coins. I prayed to the heavens that nothing would happen to her. The closer I drew to the top floor, the more intense Shen Shi's agonizing screams became. At that moment, the ceiling directly above me was pierced through by a massive hole, and a plume of pitch-black flame descended to the ground in the blink of an eye. Shen Shi's form lay at the heart of the conflagration, her soul being relentlessly incinerated by the flames. "My lord, you must flee." No sooner had she spoken than she let out another soul-piercing wail of agony. I stared at the pitch-black flames and muttered, "The Netherworld ghost fire. This fire is birthed from the deepest reaches of the Underworld. This one consumes the very essence of a spirit. To make even the slightest contact with it is to be instantly consumed by the inferno. How could a fire of this nature appear in the realm of the living?" I swung my long sword, but I hesitated, not daring to strike directly at her. With a swift stroke, I severed the connection between the Netherworld ghost fire and Shenshi. Deprived of its fuel, the Netherworld ghost fire fell to the ground. The flames gradually dwindled until they vanished entirely. Shenshi's physical form had shrunk significantly in size. It appeared only then did I realize this was not the true essence of the nether fire, but merely a flickering spark of it. Shenshi spoke with deep self-reproach, apologizing, "My lord, truly useless." I offered words of comfort. "This is not your fault. You should rest for now." Even I felt a shiver of dread before this nether fire. It is only natural that Shenji could not withstand it. At that very moment, a violent tremor erupted from above. It must be Xixing locked in battle with that demon. I immediately shouted to Hong Ye, "Go and provide assistance." Meanwhile, the figure in the black hood was bellowing at a demon. "Who gave you permission to run out here? If I had not brought the nether fire to find you, you would certainly have perished in this place." The demon replied, "I merely wanted to step out for a breath of air and to feed. These people have come looking for trouble. Wait until I slaughter them all, and then I shall return with you." The black-hooded man, losing patience, snapped, "Then make haste." In the next heartbeat, this nightmare-level demon lunged into combat against Xixing. Xixing was left speechless. The strength of the demon before him was not overwhelming. Yet, unfortunately, this creature possessed a terrifying malevolent flame. A moment of carelessness saw Xixing's arm ensnared by the pitch-black fire. It was as if fuel had been poured upon a furnace. The flame surged and erupted in an instant. Without hesitation, Xixing gritted his teeth and tore off his burning limb, his physical form dimming significantly as he did so. Xixing knew that if he were to be struck by those flames again, he would surely meet his end. Just as hope seemed lost, Hong Yi appeared and the pressure instantly relented. Seeing yet another nightmare-level demon, the hooded man cried out in shock, "How can there be more? This is already the third nightmare-level demon. Could a desolate place like Yunchuan truly harbor 3 nightmare-level demons?" He tracked the source of the demonic aura and spotted me standing at the staircase entrance. Gritting his teeth, the hooded man withdrew a vial and roared, "Zhang Kui, take all this fire. Slaughter everyone here." As he spoke, he hurled the vial through the air. Zhang Kui caught the vessel, his expression one of manic excitement, and crushed it in his grip. In the following second, pitch-black flames engulfed his entire body. Hong Ye and Xixing were forced to retreat repeatedly. With a malevolent glint in his eyes, Zhang Kui bellowed, "I shall slaughter you all." Instantly, he charged toward Xixing and Hong Ye. I flickered into motion, brandishing my longsword as I surged forward, cutting through the fray. This was no ordinary strike, but the soul-severing light from the soul-slaying technique. The soul-dispersing ghost technique is an innate nemesis to all specters, and combined with my cultivation level of the underworld realm, under normal circumstances I could undoubtedly slay a nightmare-level ghost within mere minutes. But because of the netherworld hellfire, we are forced to tread with extreme caution at every turn. The man in the black hood watched as Zhang Kui and I traded blows, and seeing that neither could gain the upper hand, he could not help but cry out in shock, "Damn it, how can this man be strong enough to fight a nightmare-level ghost to a stalemate?" I channeled my illusionary trajectory, and the surrounding environment underwent a cataclysmic transformation. As a vast sky-engulfing sea of fire manifested, countless corpses collapsed amidst the black flames. This scene was the very manifestation of Zhang Kui's deepest inner fears. Zhang Kui grew frantic, while I seized the moment to trigger the rocket trajectory and teleport. In the very next instant, a dozen fireballs rained down upon the spot where I had just vanished. After unleashing these flames, the netherworld hellfire flickering upon Zhang Kui clearly dimmed. It must be known that the netherworld hellfire he possesses is not a renewable flame. Every use diminishes it further. Seeing this, I struck out, an iron chain instantly manifesting to bind Zhang Kui's heart. However, the black flames upon him crawled along the chain, surging toward me. Startled, I hurriedly released my hold. Only then did the black flames gradually dissipate. The man in the black hood was now so stunned his jaw hung agape. How can this person possess so many trajectories? This defies all logic. One must understand that the requirements to acquire a trajectory are incredibly stringent. First, one must communicate with a ghost and then pay a colossal price to obtain the right to utilize such power. Furthermore, not every ghost is capable of granting such abilities. Yet this man can effortlessly manifest 3 types of trajectories with a wave of his hand. It is truly unprecedented. What is even more absurd is that he possesses 3 nightmare-level contract ghosts. Even more shocking is that these 3 nightmare-level ghosts are willing to follow his orders, even at the risk of having their souls scattered and extinguished. At that moment, Zhang snapped the chain and opened his maw to breathe fire. I hurriedly flicked my wrist, sending a hairpin flying. Zhang paid little heed to this tiny trinket, reaching out to crush the hairpin with his hand. However, the next second, panic seized him as the hairpin instantly pierced through his palm and struck straight toward the center of his brow. This hairpin was a gift from my senior sister, and it is a potent artifact of yin energy. The very moment Zhang was struck, he lost all ability to resist. Immediately after, Shenqi suddenly appeared behind him. A claw pierced straight through Zhang chest. Seeing this, Xixing hurriedly seized Zhang arm. The 2 demons exerted their strength and tore Zhang body in 2. The 2 demons then opened their maws to devour Zhang remains, consuming him to bolster their own power. Although I truly wish to suppress these demons, the prerequisite for suppression is to capture the opponent alive or render them completely incapable of resistance. However, Zhang possessed the Underworld flame for protection, making him extremely difficult to capture alive. Therefore, a lethal strike was the only viable option. Hong Ye stood to the side watching with a covetous gaze. Such a thing was truly a grand tonic, but as the act of killing Zhang had little to do with her, she found it improper to step forward and claim a share. Shenji glanced at Hong Ye and snatched away a severed leg, tossing it to her. Hong Yi was overcome with excitement. She expressed her gratitude, accepted the limb, and began to feast. Seeing that Zhang was dead, the hooded man fell into a state of panic and frantically drew his weapon to fire, but all his bullets were intercepted by Hong Ye. I stroked my chin, watching the hooded man. If I could obtain this Underworld flame, my strength would undoubtedly increase significantly. Just as I prepared to interrogate the hooded man for information regarding the Underworld flame, a gunshot rang out. The hooded man had taken his own life. On the other side, inside the conference room of the Spirit Controlling Society, Li Bingyan spoke with a grave expression. A nightmare-level ghost had appeared at the Minghai dormitory. The people in the conference room immediately broke into an uproar. How could a nightmare-level ghost appear? How are we to handle this situation? A man asked in a hushed voice. Is Mo Lin not currently carrying out a mission at the Minghai dormitory? Is he unable to deal with that nightmare-level ghost? Upon hearing this, Li Bingyan responded with a chilling tone. Even among ghosts there are vast differences in power. If by any chance Mo Lin's contracted ghost is no match for that nightmare-level entity, what then? The scene fell into dead silence. The young man spoke up once more to ask, will the headquarters not intervene? Li Bingyan replied with a sense of helplessness, but this is predicated on you surviving long enough for the grade 5 spirit controller from headquarters to arrive. Everyone's heart sank into the abyss. Distant water cannot put out a nearby fire. Li Bingyan commanded with steady composure, I have already signaled for reinforcements from headquarters. Our immediate priority is to provide support for Mo Lin. Inform all spirit controllers to depart at once. Moments later, over 100 spirit controllers had gathered outside the Minghai dormitory. Just as everyone prepared to charge in for a decisive battle against the nightmare-grade team, the sounds of combat within the building suddenly ceased. Everything fell into a deathly silence. Suddenly, someone cried out, something is coming out. Li Bing could not help but grip the spirit artifact in her hand tightly. As she peered closely at the Minghai dormitory, she saw my figure slowly emerge. Trailing behind me were 2 nightmare-grade demons, feasting upon something of unknown origin. Li Bingyan and the others instinctively recoiled. Some of the lower-ranked demons were so terrified that they retreated directly back into their masters' bodies. Someone whispered in shock, there are actually 2 nightmare-grade demons. This person is truly terrifying. Li Bingyan took a deep breath, suppressing her fear, and asked me, was there not a nightmare-grade demon present here? I nodded and replied, that is correct, but it has already been dealt with. Upon hearing this, Li Bingyan exhaled in visible relief. I asked with genuine curiosity, why have so many people gathered here? Li Bingyan slowly answered, I summoned reinforcements to assist you in dealing with that nightmare-grade demon. I replied with complete indifference, it was only a nightmare-grade demon. I could handle it alone without your assistance. Li Bingyan was left utterly speechless by my response. What did he mean by only a nightmare-grade demon? One must understand that a single nightmare-grade demon is capable of laying waste to the entire Yunchuan city. Only a spirit controller like Mo Lin, who possesses 2 nightmare-grade demons, could utter such arrogant words. I continued, the man in the black hat is dead inside. Help me investigate his origins. Then deliver the detailed files to me. Li Bingyan nodded in agreement. Immediately afterward, I drove to the Sifong courtyard intending to purchase materials to forge a spirit artifact capable of containing demons. However, after wandering for quite some time, I could not find anything that met my requirements. Just then, a man in a black suit approached me and greeted, "Greetings, Mr. Mo. My young master wishes to meet you." I asked, "Who is your young master?" He replied, "This Sifong Court is an establishment that belongs to my young master." Upon hearing this, I became quite intrigued. I followed the man in the suit to a private room where I saw a young man around my own age. Seeing me, he greeted me with great enthusiasm. "Brother, please, have a seat. My name is Fu Wanton. I have sought you out because I wish to conduct business with you." I asked with curiosity, "What kind of business?" He said, "You surely still possess ghost chi in your hands, do you not? For those of the highest grade, I am willing to purchase your ghost chi at a premium price. This is the deposit I have prepared for you." As Fu Wanton spoke, he produced a black briefcase. I opened the case and it was filled with underworld currency. Heavens, this man before me is truly wealthy. Seeing my look of astonishment, Fu Wanton smiled and said, "There are 200,000 units of underworld currency here." I asked calmly, "At what price do you intend to purchase my ghost chi?" He replied, "I do not wish to purchase your ghost chi, rather I intend to help you sell it. For every piece of ghost chi I help you sell, I will take a 20% commission." I hesitated upon hearing this. For a piece of ghost chi worth 30,000 underworld currency, I would have to pay him 6,000. This cut was far too high. Seeing my hesitation, Fu Wanton countered, "I can take as little as 15%, but I cannot go any lower. Venue fees, maintenance costs, and for expenses all require capital. 15% is my absolute bottom line." I considered this for a moment. At the very least, I would no longer have to worry about selling the ghost chi myself. With that, I nodded in agreement. "Very well, I will bring the ghost chi to you in a few days." Fu Wanton smiled and said, "That is fine, there is no hurry. By the way, Brother Mo, what exactly did you come to Sifon Court to acquire?" I smiled and replied, "I am looking for some rare materials, but I have looked around and have yet to find them." Upon hearing this, Fu Wanton said, "I am quite fond of collecting unique artifacts. I wonder if any of these might catch your eye?" Saying this, he turned and led me to a secret room located within the private parlor. The four walls were adorned with all manner of objects, ranging from bones of unknown origin to weathered bronze relics, and various other strange and mysterious items of that nature. Upon entering the room, my attention was immediately drawn to a ring set with a brilliant crimson gemstone. Fu Wanton spoke up, "Brother Mo, if you favor this ring, I would be honored to gift it to you." I inquired, "What manner of gemstone is this?" Though the stone appeared unremarkable to the naked eye, it emanated a lingering aura of death, making it an ideal medium for crafting a ghost artifact. Fu Wanton shook his head. "I do not know the specific material, but I obtained it from a tribe of cannibals in Europe." After listening, I nodded and said, "I shall offer you a ghost artifact in exchange for this ring." Fu Wanton was startled. He knew deep down that his ring was certainly not worth as much as a ghost artifact. Shortly thereafter, he realized that Mo Lin simply did not wish to owe him any favors. With this in mind, Fu Wanton broached the subject, "Brother Mo, there is actually a matter I would like your assistance with." I asked with curiosity, "What is it?" Fu Wanton smiled and replied, "The day after tomorrow, I must attend a critical trade meeting and I wish to invite you to serve as my bodyguard. Consider this ring your retainer." I pondered for a moment. The ring was indeed exceptional and suited my needs perfectly. Consequently, I agreed to his request. After securing the ring and 20,000 nether coins, I drove back home. Once home, I immediately began the process of refining ghost artifacts. 5 hours later, I surveyed the 5 ghost artifacts lying before me. It seemed my efficiency was not lacking. I proceeded to retrieve an iron lantern, then placed the acquired ring into the center of the lantern, and finally used the nether coins as a medium to fuel the refining flames. In just 2 days, this permanent usable ghost artifact would be fully refined. At that very moment, a hurried knocking echoed at the door. As I opened the door, I found Feng Mingwu and his uncle Liu Feng standing on the threshold. Feng Mingwu went straight to the point. "Brother Mo, my uncle's daughter has gone missing. I am here to request your help in finding her." Liu Feng interjected anxiously, "Brother Mo, if you can assist me in finding my daughter, I am willing to gift you a ghost artifact." I asked with intrigue, "Is your own intelligence network not highly sensitive? Why do you not search for her yourself?" Liu Feng sighed. "It would take me at least 2 days to track her location, and I cannot determine if she has simply lost her way or if she has been abducted. Over the years, I have offended a great number of people. I fear for her." Before I could even open my mouth, Liu Feng spoke up once again. "I possess information regarding the Netherworld fire. As long as you are willing to help me find my daughter, I can provide you with the location of the Netherworld fire." My heart skipped a beat. I had not expected him to know of such a treasure. Suppressing my turbulent emotions, I smiled and replied, "In truth, even if you did not offer me news of the Netherworld fire, I would still be willing to help you find your daughter. After all, I am naturally a helpful person." Feng Mingwu curled his lip and rolled his eyes, remarking, "Go find a mirror and look at that hypocritical expression of yours." I chose to ignore Feng Mingwu, continuing to reassure Liu Feng. "In any case, Feng Mingwu and I are friends, so let alone helping you find your daughter, even if it meant ascending a mountain of blades or descending into a sea of flames, I would be honored to accompany you." Feng Mingwu could no longer bear to listen, complaining in exasperation, "Is such groveling really necessary? Where has that imposing aura you displayed when capturing the nightmare-level evil spirit gone?" I coughed awkwardly to mask my embarrassment and changed the subject. Let us set aside the small talk and focus on the matter at hand. Seeing this, Feng Mingwu turned serious and asked, "Do you actually have a way to track people?" I smiled, saying I did not before, but I certainly do now. With that, I clapped my hands and commanded, "Little ghost, come forth." In the next moment, the silhouette of Xiao Li appeared before us. "Lord Molin, do you have any tasks for me?" I smiled and introduced him to the two men. Although this little ghost possesses no combat prowess, he has an innate talent for tracking and can trace a person using only the faintest of clues. Feng Mingwu stared in astonishment and said, "To think you are like Yunlin, possessing two contract ghosts. Truly impressive." I grumbled with clear dissatisfaction. "Two contract ghosts? Do you take me for a novice?" Feng Mingwu rolled his eyes in silence once more. "I was praising you. You truly do not appreciate the kindness of others. You have absolutely no sense of tact." I retorted my apologies, but I failed to sense a shred of sincerity in your praise. Turning back to Lu Feng, I asked, "Do you have any personal item that your daughter carried with her?" Lu Feng pondered for a moment before handing over a photograph. "My daughter, do you think she is acceptable?" I took the photo, nodded in agreement, and then handed it to the little ghost with the command, "Help me find this girl." The little ghost held the photo, closed its eyes, and moments later suddenly snapped them open. "My lord, I have found her." Before I could even speak, a frantic Lu Feng stepped forward and grabbed the little ghost, demanding, "Where is my daughter?" However, before he could finish his sentence, the little ghost had already tightened its grip around his throat. Lu Feng shuddered, only then realizing he had dared to offend this malevolent spirit. Lu Feng did not doubt for a second that if I were not present, this spirit would have crushed the life out of him. I hurriedly ordered it to release him. Only then did the little ghost let go. I sighed and commanded the spirit, "Lead the way." Immediately after, Lu Feng took the driver's seat. Mingwu and I sat in the back, while the little ghost sat atop the roof of the car to direct us. The road grew increasingly rugged. It appeared that Lu Feng's daughter was being held in the outskirts. Just then I suddenly ordered him to stop the car. Feng Mingwu, confused by the sudden turn of events, asked, "What is the matter?" With a grave expression I replied, "Drive me home immediately. I have an extremely important matter to attend to." Seeing my urgency, Lu Feng did not dare to delay, slamming on the accelerator to return me to my doorstep. I rushed out of the car and into the house, quickly emerging with the cage used for refining ghost essence. I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking to myself that I had nearly forgotten about this. If the flame at the center of this cage were to be extinguished, everything would be ruined. Would I not have wasted tens of thousands of Underworld coins? Feng Mingwu looked at the object I was carrying, which resembled a lantern, and asked inquisitively, "What is this?" I did not offer a detailed explanation, stating only that it was a matter of great importance. Lu Feng then cautiously asked, "Is there anything else you need to do now?" I replied calmly, "Nothing left. Let us go find your daughter." And so we set off once more to find his child. After leaving the city center, the entire journey consisted of winding mountain paths, shaking us violently the whole way, until we finally arrived at a desolate, uninhabited location. Following that, we traversed a narrow, secluded trail, and after traveling for about 5 minutes, we finally arrived at our destination. The little ghost pointed toward a house not far ahead and said, "It is right over there." I looked up to see a modest 2-story house with a small courtyard, standing before a river that severed the road in two, connected only